Apocalypse begins by copying Magneto, controlling the magnetic field. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. 50 don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now. Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 151. The world has really changed, and zombies can speak. You're still here, aren't you? Seeing the mutant zombies below, I want to attack again. Chu Xiu said nothing. A lightning spear condensed in the palm of his hand, and through it boom. Lightning spears cut through the air, falling into the dense pile of zombies below. It immediately caused an explosion. The scattered lightning energy forms a minefield. Electrocutes all zombies within range. You kill. In the dense killing prompts. Chu Xiu found Thorn Raw's kill prompt. You killed the SSSS-level mutant zombies. Stinging Raw. Gain experience value plus 300. It's a lot of experience. Normally, a SSSS-level mutant zombie has only 200 experience point, but this Stinging Raw was a full 100 more. 5. 6-3 solved the sting. Chu Xiu moved on point, but it didn't take long to fly out, and another mutant zombie caught Chu Xiu's attention. This mutant zombie has no means of long range attack. Just its arms. Mutated into two strange black limbs resembling mantis scythes. What the hell is this? Chu Xiu lowered his height a little. I want to scan this mutant zombie. At this moment, another mutant zombie rushed out from the side. Raw. Next to Chu Xiu, in a half-built unfinished building, suddenly a mutant zombie with a unique shape rushed out. The whole is humanoid. The only difference is that its hands have turned into black octopus-like tentacles. Raw. The zombie jumped up from the building. The hands, that turned into tentacles, like long whips, swung towards Chu Xiu in the air. The scary thing is this tentacle can also grow in the air. At the longest time, the tentacles threw out a length of nearly 50 meters. Why are there so many mutant zombies here? It's still a new breed that I haven't seen before. Chu Xiu couldn't help but have a question in his heart. But there was no hesitation to start. Boom. A pillar of thunder blasted past. In an instant, the tentacle zombie, together with its tentacles, was blasted into coke. You killed the SSSS-level mutant zombies. Tentacle zombies. EXP plus 300. Then, while the beep sounds, Chu Xiu dismantled an abandoned car on the ground with a magnetic field. Pull out the high-strength steel in the car. Turned into a sword. The mutant zombie with a sickle and sharp claws was cut down from the air. You killed the SSSS-level mutant zombies. Scythe zombies. EXP plus 300. Scythe. Tentacle. Why do I feel like the zombies here are weaponized? Chu Xiu finally realized what was wrong. That is, the ability of these zombies is too deliberate. There is remote. There is close combat. It doesn't feel like it evolved naturally at all. It's like a man-made biological weapon. Just when Chu Xiu noticed something was wrong, not far away. In an abandoned, unfinished building. A strange zombie was looking at Chu Xiu with binoculars. That's why I say it's weird. Not just because it uses a telescope. Another reason is that it compares with other zombies dressed so cleanly. Not to mention that the clothes are clean. They are still brand name suits. Even the hair is done. Also hit the moose. Comb into oily head. At first glance, there is no district police with living people. But in addition to these, it has the unique ugly appearance of zombies. The skin was pale and shriveled, and the eyes became the pale pupils of a dead fish. Raw. In the unfinished building, occasionally there are zombies who are confused, approaching this zombie in a suit. After confirming that it is the same, these zombies did not attack and walked away in a daze. From beginning to end, this strange zombie ignored the other zombies around him. It was lying by the window and observed Chu Xiu with a telescope for a while. He even picked up a walkie-talkie from the side. Drive. Cecil, someone is here. Awakened. 9 zombies in suits actually speak, and from the logic of speaking, it seems that it still retains the thinking as a human. Only suit lost call twice on the walkie-talkie, but got no response. Drive. Cecil, strange. Is it broken again? The zombie in suit patted the radio in his hand. Try physical slapping, and fix this thing. Stop filming. The radio isn't broken, it's just that I cut off your communication. At this moment, Chu Xiu's voice came from outside the unfinished building. Just now, Just the moment the strange zombie turned on the radio, Chu Xiu keenly captured the electromagnetic wave signal of wireless communication. As a LV5 magnetic field controller, Chu Xiu can easily detect and intercept electromagnetic waves of infinite communication. "Who is Dr. Cecil, you just said?" Chu Xiu condescendingly looked down at the suit man below. Because of the angle, Chu Xiu can only see this guy in a suit, with oily hair, and dressed like a dog. Plus there is no first scan point, so Chu Xiu didn't know that this was actually a zombie. How do you know that in Dr. Cecil? Seeing that Chu Xiu, who was a few hundred meters away, suddenly came to him, he also said exactly the name of Dr. Cecil. The zombies in suits in the unfinished building looked horrified. I'll let you ask questions. 4.1 Chu Xiu's tone turned cold. With one look, a scaffolding steel pipe on the upstairs of the unfinished end immediately moved like a python. Quickly wrapped around the neck of the man in the suit, drag it out of the building. Suspended in midair. Wait, you are a zombie? As the man in the suit was dragged out of the building, Chu Xiu finally saw its face clearly. At the same time, the scanning information of the system also appeared. Runner ordinary zombies, the most common existence in the end of the day. Either Chu Xiu saw it, or the system scanned it. All show the man in the suit in front of him is a zombie, and it's still the most common runner. An ordinary zombie. Chapter 152, Lithography Machine. Innovation Industrial Park. Why do you still retain the thinking you had before you were alive? Chu Xiu didn't understand. An ordinary zombie. Why have independent thinking? You must know that the last zombie with an independent mind was the mastermind who could control the corpse tide, but the main brain is an S+ level mutant zombie. It is the top existence among zombies, but the man in a suit in front of him is just the most common runner. HMPH. How do you understand the greatness of Dr. Cecil? See? The doubt in Chu Xiu's eyes. The zombie in the suit snorted coldly, and a fanatical expression appeared on the zombie-like face. Like a mad believer with a devout belief. With this expression on a zombie's face, it's really full of inconsistencies. Seeing an ordinary zombie being so arrogant, Chu Xiu felt a little unhappy in his heart. Originally wanted to torture and ask again. But on second thought. Everyone is a zombie. And torture is a fart. Even if all the bones in its body are broken, it can't feel the slightest pain. Fine. Then, where is this Dr. Cecil from you said? Realizing this, Chu Xiu asked directly. The best news is to ask. Kill if you can. Ask. Why should I tell you? Obviously, the man in the suit also knew that he was a zombie and felt no pain. And as a zombie, he is not afraid of death. I will never betray the game. Puff. The man in the suit hasn't finished speaking yet. The steel pipe controlled by Chu Xiu grew spikes that penetrated its brain. You kill ordinary zombies. Experience +1. It's really a normal zombie. The system's killing prompt once again proved that the man in the suit is just an ordinary zombie. Because only a little experience. Just when Chu Xiu killed the zombie in suit, he was ready to continue searching along the riverbank. Diddy in the unfinished building, the radio where the zombies in suits fell to the ground suddenly rang. It came just fine. Seeing this, Chu Xiu immediately focused his attention through magnetic field induction. One of the silk threads crisscrossed between heaven and earth was precisely found. Flick. The information flow of electromagnetic waves was immediately connected to Chu Xiu's mind. Zhang. Hua. What's the situation on your side? Why is there no news at all so far? As soon as the communication was connected, a man's voice entered Chu Xiu's ears. Chu Xiu did not speak. He is looking for the location of the caller in the reverse direction, based on the electromagnetic waves. Hey, Zhang Hua, speak. Zhang Hua. The man on the other end of the phone shouted a few times, but when he saw that there was no response, he gradually realized that something was wrong. When he is ready to hang up the communication, it's too late. Got you. Chu Xiu raised his head, his eyes locked directly in a direction flew straight past. Not for a while, a science and technology park appeared in Chu Xiu's eyes. Look from afar, the entire park is surrounded by high walls. There are more than a dozen factories and buildings inside, all of which have become areas where survivors gather. In terms of scale, this base is even comparable to the original Southwest base. It seems that Zhang Haoping is talking about this base. Chu Xiu glanced from a distance, not in a hurry. Instead, he found a high building nearby and landed on it. Observe quietly for a while. It doesn't matter if you don't observe this observation. Chu Xiu immediately discovered the strange place. The base in front of me is like not afraid of zombies. The entrance door is almost open. Every now and then a truck full of supplies drives in and then drives out empty. See this scene. Chu Xiu finally understood why this base dared to accept thousands of survivors all at once. Don't worry about food supply and other issues. But where did they search for so many supplies? Could it be because just now the zombies who have retained their thoughts before they were alive? Chu Xiu guessed in his heart. If this base has mastered a certain way to turn people into zombies but retain their thinking before death, let this zombie go out to collect supplies, taking advantage of the fact that zombies generally do not attack the same kind. They wantonly collect supplies in the city. Only in this way everything makes sense. If this is the case, then this base is equivalent to creating a new river for doomsday survival. It's a good thing for humans too. Since it's a good thing, why did Li Qiuai and the others destroy this base? Confused, Chu Xiu used a magnetic field to simulate electromagnetic waves and dialed Beizhao's communication. What's wrong? As soon as the communication was connected, Beizhao's dull voice rang out. Help me check the information about Xingmui Science and Technology Innovation Industrial Park. A man named Dr. Cecil. Chu Xiu said solemnly. Xingmui Science and Technology Innovation Industrial Park is the name of the previous park. As for what Dr. Cecil. As soon as I heard the name, I knew it was a foreigner. You went to Wax City. Obviously, Beizhao knew about this industrial park. Because she clarified the location of this industrial park in one bite. This industrial park was jointly established by several foreign-funded enterprises in 2016. In the enterprises, except one is a joint venture, the others are foreign-funded. As for what you said about Dr. Cecil, it should be a foreign researcher of Huawei Biomedical Technology Company, from a free country. Beizhao introduced it like a treasure. How do you know so much? After Chu Xiu heard this, he couldn't help but have doubts. Remember when I told you I need a lithography machine? There's a 14nm lithography machine here. Beizhao explained. It's only 14nm. Is it useful? Chu Xiu couldn't help asking. Some civilian CPUs and graphics chips before the end of the world all use 9nm or even 5nm. A 14nm lithography machine. What cutting edge products can 563 make? Because of the foreign blockade of our technology, I know less about lithography machines. 5 Beizhao said. But the little understanding in her mouth is obviously not the kind of little that ordinary people perceive. This machine is an opportunity for me to learn. Beizhao said calmly. You still need to study. Beizhao on the other end of the communication was silent for a moment, then said slowly, knowledge is not created out of thin air. Everyone needs to learn. Fine. If I find it, I'll find a way to bring it back to you. Chu Xiu has nothing to say back to the point. Beizhao, is there a possibility to turn people into zombies, but retain the thinking he had before his death? Chu Xiu asked. Almost impossible. What Chu Xiu did not expect was that Beizhao directly gave a negative answer. In the absence of external interference, if people really become zombies, it is impossible to retain the thinking before their death. Because the first step in zombie transformation is to destroy brain tissue. Beizhao gave an explanation, but then the conversation changed. Unless the person is not completely changed, mutated, or, in the process of mutation, someone used external force to protect his brain tissue. Of course, there is another possibility apostrophe, that is this kind of zombie with self-awareness. In fact, a living person has built his own consciousness into the zombie in some way, similar to remote control. Chapter 153 Black-robed soldiers, zombies, and also, Beizhao gave 3 theoretically feasible ways and it sounds she seems to have other ideas. Alright, how Do you know so much about this stuff? Don't tell me you feel the same way. 5 Chu Xiu hurriedly interrupted Beizao while wondering. Of course not. This is so stupid. Not to mention the failure rate of these methods. Even if it succeeds, the person who becomes a zombie is no longer human. Once human beings lose their ability to continue, civilization will soon go to extinction. Beizao said quietly. As an emotionless person, Chu Xiu could feel that Beizao was very dissatisfied with this behavior of turning people into zombies. Okay, I see. After Chu Xiu finished speaking, he cut off the communication. Jump off tall buildings in the clothing store on the street. I found an ordinary piece of clothes to put on. Grab a pipe at random. Disguised as an ordinary survivor, he walked towards the technology industrial park ahead. It didn't take long. Chu Xiu noticed that there were eyes watching him. But in the magnetic field induction, it was found that there was no living person around. Only the figure of the zombie was found. Looks like that kind of self-aware zombie again. Chu Xiu had the answer in his heart. It still pretended to be ignorant and continued to move forward. Roar. Soon, there are zombies surrounded. Chu Xiu turned steel pipes. 1 stick 1. These zombies were easily eliminated. Moreover, this is because he restrained his strength a little. Otherwise, these zombies will probably not be able to find a complete corpse. Although restrained, Chu Xiu's performance was still shocked by the existence hiding in the dark. Not far away. Inside a third floor window of a building. An ordinary zombie looked at Chu Xiu's performance and excitedly picked up the walkie-talkie. Inform Dr. Cecil, an awakener has come over. It looks like it should be a power type ability. This time, Chu Xiu did not cut off his communication but let him successfully notify the base. It's just a power type awakener. There's no need to alarm Dr. Cecil. How about this? Notify the expulsion team to drive away the zombies around the base. Let him come by himself. 9 Soon, a reply came from the communicator, but because Chu Xiu only showed the supernatural talent in power, so it didn't attract much attention. Okay, the demolition team has been notified. Chu Xiu silently monitored the conversation between the 2. As the call ends, a weird scene happened. The zombies on the road leading to the science and technology industrial park suddenly seemed to be attracted by something. Scattered to both sides. This gave Chu Xiu a safe path with few zombies. Is this the expulsion team? Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes. Obviously, what means did these people draw the zombies away? But well, there are fewer zombies on the road. Chu Xiu didn't need to waste time and soon came to the periphery of the industrial park. Stop, did you come to flee? A group of soldiers wrapped in black robes stopped Chu Xiu. Notably, these people were completely wrapped up and down, not even showing their eyes. Instead, she wears dark sunglasses. Yes, I came from the southwest base. Chu Xiu made up a random reason. Although these people are tightly wrapped, they cannot deceive the system. Runner ordinary zombies. Runner ordinary zombies. Runner ordinary zombies. Although these people are very tightly wrapped, but the system scan still revealed that they are all zombies. Sure, hearing that Chu Xiu was here to flee, several black-robed soldiers put down their guns. Then he asked again, are you an ordinary person or an awakened? About this question, Chu Xiu didn't answer, just grabbed the steel pipe with both hands and twisted it lightly. With the harsh metal twisting sound, the steel pipe was twisted into a twist. Several black-robed soldiers looked at each other. Then, the leader stood up. Awakened, right, follow me. After finishing speaking, it took Chu Xiu to the base. Chu Xiu did not hesitate and followed. On the way. Eyes have been looking at the base. As seen from a distance, the defense of this base is not tight. It can even be said to be sparse. While standing on the high wall, black-robed soldiers with live ammunition, but outside the walls less than 100 meters away, there are zombies roaming. But these black-robed soldiers turned a blind eye. On the contrary. As sentries, they not only pay no attention to the zombies on the periphery of the base. Instead, intentionally or unintentionally, look inside the base for inspection. It seems that their purpose is not to prevent the zombies from coming in, but to prevent the survivors from going out. I heard that there are many survivors of the southwest base like me who came here Chu Xiu followed behind the black-robed soldier. Asked casually, "That's right, in front of you. There are almost 1,000 people. So don't worry. When you get here, you don't have to worry about survival anymore," the black-robed soldier said, and pointed to another entrance not far away. There happened to be a truck full of supplies there. "Drive slowly through the gate. Have you seen it? Ours my bases, so rich in supplies. Don't say more than 1,000 people. Even if there are more people, we can accept it, correct? If you still know people, you can invite them too. Each person pulls an extra ration," the soldiers in black robes said, and even proposed the activity of pulling more heads, Li Wang Heo, to divide the rations. "The way is very much like a pyramid scheme. The supplies are quite abundant," Chu Xiu said. The painting style changed. "But, what's in that truck?" Chu Xiu asked. Not far away, just after entering the entrance of the material truck, another truck drove out. The carriage of this car was tightly wrapped in black canvas, but even at this distance, could smell a faint rancid odor. The black-robed soldier glanced at the truck. The tone suddenly changed. "Let's hurry in. You are an awakened person, so you don't need to check and register the grave like an ordinary person. I'll take you directly to meet our leader." The black-robed soldier changed the subject between words. "I just want to quickly bring Chu Xiu in. That's a good feeling." Hearing to go directly to the leader of this base, Chu Xiu did not refuse. Chapter 154. Zombies also worship foreigners? Enter the park. Chu Xiu found another difference in this base. Generally speaking, the living area of the survivor base will be divided into two layers, inner and outer. The inner layer is populated by high-level bases, and some powerful awakeners in the outer layer. Usually people live there. But the base in front of me is just the opposite. Passing through the entrance, the first thing that catches your eye is not the slum-like living area. It's a warehouse full of supplies. Some black-robed soldiers are directing the survivors to carry supplies. The survivors also seemed cooperative. There is no such thing as forced labor. It seems that this base is not as bad as Chu Xiu imagined. It seems that the survivors still trust you, Chu Xiu said casually. "What are you talking about? In this world, there is food and drink. Why don't they trust us?" Hearing Chu Xiu's words, the black-robed soldier said with some dissatisfaction. At this time, a man who is taller and stronger than ordinary black-robed soldiers. He walked past Chu Xiu and the black-robed soldier. Giant runner E-class mutated zombie. Runners who have undergone secondary mutations for unknown reasons are far more powerful than ordinary zombies. Has the power far beyond the runner. There are even mutant zombies. Chu Xiu scanned this guy's information. But I found out that this guy is actually a runner with a second mutation. Although only the weakest E-class, but it is also a real mutant zombie. Stop looking, go quickly. See, Chu Xiu always stop and go. Look around. The soldiers in black robes were a little dissatisfied and began to urge 563 to rush. Chu Xiu did not speak. Just turned around and gave it a cold look. At this glance, the black-robed soldier froze in place. Even though he was already a zombie, he felt an inexplicable chill suddenly in his heart. But the chill came and went quickly. Just disappeared in an instant. Like an illusion. "Let's go." Chu Xiu's tone was calm. As if nothing happened. Oh. The black-robed soldier came back to his senses and dared not say anything more. Only lead the way ahead. Passing through the peripheral warehouse, this really entered the interior of the Science and Technology Park. Factories and buildings have been converted into temporary living quarters at this time. Chu Xiu finally saw the survivors of the southwest base who had defected. They are scattered in these factories and buildings, but whether it's a factory or a building, most of the doors and windows were sealed tightly. The only exits were guarded by black-robed soldiers with live ammunition. But none of that matters. Importantly, Chu Xiu simply sensed the number of survivors through magnetic field induction. Only 500 or 600 people were found. "Didn't you say more than 1,000 people came? Why are there only so many people?" Chu Xiu asked. Search, collect supplies. Yes, go to collect supplies. The black-robed soldier thought of a lame reason. Chu Xiu did not expose him. But there is already an answer in my heart. Come on, it's coming. The soldiers in black robes led Chu Xiu and continued to move forward. Come to a building. The sign next to it reads, Huami Biomedical Technology, which is the company Beizio mentioned. Our chief is in here. The black-robed soldiers took the lead into the building. Just when Chu Xiu was ready to walk in. Suddenly, Chu Xiu noticed that there were eyes watching him from behind. And not just one. Look back. I saw a few survivors from the southwest base in a factory just passed by, lying in front of the windows sealed with iron railings. Use lips and gestures. He kept expressing a meaning to Chu Xiu. Don't go in. Don't go in. Chu Xiu understood what they meant, but ignored it. He turned around and walked into the building. Ugh, it's over. There's one more monster inside the bars. Several survivors groaned. Everyone's eyes revealed a deep despair. Not long after, the iron gate of the factory, where they were located, was opened. A group of black-robed soldiers came in. Among them is the E-level mutant zombie giant runner that Chu Xiu scanned just now. Old rule. Group of 10. This time the volume is large, and 3 groups are needed. Done. Soldiers in black robes began to capture the survivors and voluntarily anyone who resists. They just slammed the butt into the backhand. Soon there were 30 survivors, divided into groups of 10, and chained together. There are men and women. There are old and young. Let's go. Don't let the foreigners wait. The soldiers in black robes grabbed the survivors and were about to leave. A middle-aged man with a gaunt face rushed out. Let go of my wife, he growled. He beat these black-robed soldiers with all his strength. But these black-robed soldiers didn't know the pain at all. Bang. A backhand but knocked him to the ground. Want to die, don't you? Remember what I told you about resistance? The leading tall soldier in black robe stood up. A bloodthirsty voice came from under the cloak. No one dared to respond to it. Just look at it with a pair of frightened or angry eyes. Forgot, did you? The black-robed soldier sneered. Then, with practical actions, the fear in the hearts of these survivors was awakened. I saw it take off its cloak. The ugly zombie face was revealed. Then, he pounced directly on the middle-aged man on the ground. No. In the screams of middle-aged men, the soldiers in black robes feasted. In front of countless survivors, bite and swallow bloody flesh. Several other soldiers in black robes saw this, finally couldn't hold back. They all joined this bloody gluttonous feast. What? Some female survivors in the factory fainted from fright. The other survivors were also scared back by the scene. Just a moment. A living person. It was gnawed into a bloody white bone with a little bit of meat. Ugh. A few soldiers in black robes stood up contentedly. He licked the blood from the corner of his mouth. There seems to be some unfinished business. Anyone else to resist? The leading black-robed soldier swept over the crowd with greedy eyes. It seems that he is eager to pop out another person to make him full. But unfortunately, after experiencing this bloody scene, no one dared to look at him. Remember, this is the end of resistance. The black-robed soldier snorted coldly. Done. Leaving the factory with 3 groups of survivors bound by chains. My daughter husband. Immediately after they left, there was a wailing in the factory. The other side. Chu Xiu, who had just walked into the building, seemed to hear something. Pause slightly. In front, the black-robed soldiers who had been leading the way. After entering the building, I immediately found a blonde foreigner. Then humbly reported, my lord, I have brought you another awakener here. Powerful. Look, can you be with Dr. Cecil? The black-robed soldier didn't finish his sentence. The foreigner waved his hand impatiently. It's just a power type. Hurry up and send it to the basement. Hey, it's fine. The black-robed soldier nodded and bowed. After speaking, he returned to Chu Xiu's side. Come with me. Right in the basement. Arrived at Chu Xiu's side. The black-robed soldier straightened his waist again. Chu Xiu was silent. He heard all the conversations between the black-robed soldier and the foreigner. What did you call that foreigner just now? Chu Xiu's tone was extremely cold. Shh. What foreigner? That's Yangda. The black-robed soldier was startled. Just wanted to speak. But it was strangled by an invisible force. For whatever reason you became a zombie. That's not the reason for you to bow down to these white pigs. Chapter 1. We only have the king of hell. How do you know I'm a zombie? Chu Xiu's words startled the black-robed soldier. A word out of his mouth directly exposed his identity. What's Wrong. What's the noise? In the hall, the foreigner who had just talked with the black-robed soldier also looked over. A pair of jackal-like green eyes, revealing dissatisfaction. Chu Xiu did not speak. Turning his head and looking at the surveillance camera in the corner, the magnetic field energy is released. Next second in the monitoring room of the building, all the screens flickered with snowflakes. What? 9 what? Happened to the surveillance? A foreigner in front of the surveillance hurriedly sat up straight. Want to see monitoring failures, but then all screens are back to normal. Oh, it turned out that the signal was only interrupted when foreigners see this. He sat back in the chair with confidence. But he didn't realize that the pictures on these screens were no longer real-time monitoring. Instead, it's a 15-second looping video. At the moment when the monitoring was replaced. In the hall on the first floor, the black-robed soldier and the foreigner who were talking 1 second were pierced by 2 silver lights in the next second and fell to the ground with a bang. In the air, gradually there was a bloody smell. You kill ordinary zombies. Experience value +1. Chu Xiu's expression was as usual. As if nothing happened. I just tidied up my collar and walked towards the basement. While walking. While using magnetic field induction, he probed the distribution of people in this building. In the basement. Several blonde old peripherals in front of an operating table. On the operating table is a young man who is being transformed into a zombie. The foreigners seemed to have failed, and the young man gradually lost his mind and began to roar like a wild beast. Shit, failed again. The bodies of these Chinese people are too fragile. A simple corpse transformation can't survive. No wonder it is called the sick man of East Asia. That's right. If it weren't for these yellow ghosts, our success rate wouldn't be so low. What is a yellow ghost? Jen is a black ghost, so these Chinese people are not yellow ghosts. Haha, that's right, yellow ghost. Watching the young man on the operating table turn into a zombie. Several foreigners not only have no guilt. Instead, talk and laugh. Even the reason for the failure of the experiment was attributed to the physique of the Chinese people. Come on, drag this down. One of the foreigners shouted to the door. Finished shouting. He turned back and chatted with his companions again. I remember that the next one seemed to be a woman, not too old. Hey, I understand what you mean. Who will come first this time? Charles. No, Charles doesn't pity Xiu at all. Last time that girl was directly killed by him, so that we were even scolded by the doctor. A few foreigners chatted and laughed. But after a while, no one came in outside the door. The youth on the operating table has completely transformed. Yelling at a few people. However, its hands and feet were tightly bound by iron chains and could not move. What about people? Hurry up and drag this zombie out and burn it. The foreigner shouted again, but there was still no response outside the door. Fake. These yellow ghosts have all turned into zombies, and they are not obedient. A foreigner scolded. Just wanted to go out and check it out. Bang. The isolation door of the laboratory was suddenly opened. A tall and straight figure stood at the door with 2 iron balls suspended in the palm of his hand. The iron ball is under the action of magnetic field. Around each other. What is striking is that the spheres of the 2 iron balls are covered with blood. The police shouted, "You are the last few." Chu Xiu's eyes are cold. What he said even surprised a few foreigners. Fake. F******. The few foreigners who came back to their senses took out their pistols one after another, but I haven't had time to open the insurance yet. The pistol was forcibly pulled away by an invisible force and flew to Chu Xiu's side. What? Several foreigners were startled, and one of them reacted. Notify the doctor. It's the magnetic field manipulator. He took out the radio, only to find that the signal couldn't get out at all. Electromagnetic waves with a radius of 1 km were all forcibly cut off by an invisible force. Shit, don't mess around. I tell you, our people are coming soon. The foreigner tried to bluff Chu Xiu with words to buy himself time. But Chu Xiu didn't even look at them, but look at on the zombie youth on the operating table. Perhaps for EUs, the shackles that bind the young man's hands and feet are all metal. You like to turn people into zombies, don't you? Ask for flowers, Chu Xiu said, and with a slight movement of his fingers, the shackles opened directly. No. No. Seeing this scene, the souls of several foreigners were scared away, reaching out for a gun. It came out empty. They just remembered. All his guns were taken away by the magnetic field controller in front of him. No. Don't come here. Roar. A few foreigners begging for mercy. For the youth who have been completely zombied. It is undoubtedly fart. The zombie youth rushed over, or scratch or bite. With 3 or 2 efforts, all the foreigners present were infected. Roar. Then, the zombie youth turned around and rushed towards Chu Xiu again. Well done. Put a good baby in the next life. After Chu Xiu finished speaking, the iron ball in his hand turned into silver light, penetrating the youth's brain. 0 left square bracket. You kill ordinary zombies. Experience value +1. Don't grab it. Let me inject. Sheet. Charles, you're a douchebag. Give me the potion back. F***K. Here, several foreigners who were infected start frantically scramble for a tube of orange potion in front of the operating table. Even to the point of biting and beating each other. Desperate. Get the potion too. It seems that this is the thing that can make zombies retain their thinking. Chu Xiu waved. He directly sucked the orange potion that everyone was fighting for. Do not give it to me. I saw that the medicine I got was taken away by Chu Xiu. Several foreigners looked desperate. They were less than 5 meters away from Chu Xiu. But this 5 meters, but it has become a moot point. The first step in zombieization has already begun to destroy their brain tissue. Please, give me the medicine. Please. In despair, several foreigners knelt down and kept kowtowing to Chu Xiu. Tears mixed with snot. Chu Xiu didn't say a word, just looked at them playfully. It's like watching a group of slaughtered animals. Do not. You are the devil. The devil. Finally, the foreigners recognized the reality. One of the foreigners roared in despair before his consciousness dissipated. We have no devils here, only Hades. Chu Xiu looked at them coldly until they were completely transformed into zombies. In despair, the iron ball in Chu Xiu's hand turned into silver light. Fly towards them to the mountains. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 156. Zombies in the freezer. You kill ordinary zombies. You kill ordinary zombies. You kill. After dealing with a few foreigners, Chu Xiu retreated to the corridor. In the hallway, all over the place, they were all dead soldiers in black robes. Their cause of death is the same. They were all penetrated between the eyebrows by a sharp object. Chu Xiu didn't even look at the corpses, just take a step and continue to the next floor of the laboratory. As the main laboratory building of a large pharmaceutical company. The underground area of this building is no smaller than the area above it. There are 3 floors underground, not to mention the large area. The construction is also extremely complex. Large and small laboratories are connected by intricate corridors. Not paying attention, it's possible to get to Z point, but for Chu Xiu, none of this is a problem. No matter how complex the structure is, it is useless in the face of magnetic field induction. Through the steel structure in the building 580. Chu Xiu already has a complete structural diagram of the building in his mind. And it is a 3D structure diagram. Entering the second basement floor, Chu Xiu bumped into 2 researchers holding research materials. Ironically, they are not foreigners, but they are still merciless and conduct zombie experiments on their compatriots. Strange. Why is there no news on it so far? Usually, at this time, at least one experiment has come out, because Chu Xiu cut off the communication and monitoring of the whole building. Lead to others in the building. As of now it is not known what happened above. Go up and have a look. If something goes wrong, we can't afford it. That's right. The 2 were ready to go upstairs, but as soon as he approached the stairs, he encountered Chu Xiu, who was walking down. Who are you? Why haven't I seen you? One person's voice just fell. An iron ball in Chu Xiu's hand turned into silver light and shot out. The two didn't even have a chance to escape. It was pierced through the head in an instant. In Chu Xiu's view, this kind of person who treats a white-skinned pig as a dog is more disgusting than the white-skinned pig itself. Solved both of them. Chu Xiu continued to move forward. Stop, where's your ID card? The black-robed soldiers in the corridor just wanted to stop him. Swish. Silver light flashed by. The black-robed soldier who spoke died instantly. Enemy. Attack. Shoot. Yeah, most of these black-robed soldiers are ordinary zombies. The only special thing is that they use human weapons. But in front of Chu Xiu, the master of the magnetic field, using firearms itself is a very stupid thing. Chu Xiu waved his hand. The firearms in the hands of these black-robed soldiers disintegrated and split in an instant. Turn into hundreds of metal balls. Kill these black-robed soldiers first. Fly back again. Like the stars holding the moon, they surround Chu Xiu. Just a moment. All the black-robed soldiers in the corridor died. And the metal balls around Chu Xiu changed from 2 to hundreds. Enemy. Attack. Release. Biochemical weapons. However, the shouting of the black-robed soldier still aroused the vigilance of others in the laboratory. With shouts, a strange sound came from the laboratory next to it. Boom. Chu Xiu waved his hand and opened the isolation door of the laboratory. I saw a few blonde foreigners in the laboratory, in a hurry, opening a device similar to a freezer, and beside, in some culture cabins similar to fish tanks, there were also grotesquely deformed zombies lying there, among them, the tentacle zombies and sickle zombies that Chu Xiu encountered before. You really made these shit? Chu Xiu's eyes turned cold. Done. All the metal balls around him shot out like bullets. No. Jesus. Several foreigners were beaten up in an instant. But before they died, they still opened the door of the freezer. Cairo. The hatch opened, accompanied by the cold air leaking out. A fully armed mutant zombie rushed out of the freezer. Giant runner E-class mutated zombie. Runners with secondary mutations for unknown reasons. The system prompts that it is just a runner with a second mutation. Just like the one in the black cloak outside. But their appearance is very different. The giant runner in front of him was wearing a thick layer of armor and a fully enclosed metal helmet on his head. A Gatling gun is fixed on the right arm, with a big suitcase behind him. It's full of bullets. Raw. After the heavily armed giant runner came out, the pale eyes immediately locked on Chu Xiu, and then raised the Gatling gun. Good idea. It's a pity you met me. Chu Xiu has one hand. At the same time, the giant runner's Gatling gun also started turning. The gunshots roared, and the dense bullets formed a fiery snake. But they all swept past Chu Xiu. Immediately after, the giant runner, with a part of human thinking, was horrified to find that he could not control the Gatling gun in his hand. The machine gun is pulled by an invisible force. The muzzle was raised slowly. Dense fire snakes up the walls, sweep up the ceiling. Then slowly move closer to the giant runner's chin. Raw. The giant runner can only look at Gatling on his arm in despair. Gradually move your chin toward yourself. Accompanied by the roar of machine guns, the fully enclosed metal helmet can't stop the bullets of the Gatling gun. The head of the giant runner was directly thrown away by the dense bullets. Most of the head was blasted to pieces. You killed the E-level mutant zombies. Experience value plus 25. I thought it wasn't mine this time. Chu Xiu sneered. After all, it seemed that the giant runner's actions looked like suicide. Fortunately, the system's judgment is more reasonable. It is still determined that Chu Xiu killed the giant runner. Resolved giant runner. Chu Xiu wanted to leave, but suddenly noticed that there was a freezer next to him. Another so-called bioweapon. Chu Xiu walked over and saw what was inside through the glass window of the freezer. It's not the same as the biochemical weapon that was fully armed and even brought Gatling point in this freezer. In the cold air, there is only one 4.1 petite and thin female figure, wailing. Banshee. Chu Xiu recognized the zombies inside. This is a C-class mutant zombie, wailing Banshee. At the same time, an information plate on the freezer caught Chu Xiu's attention. Information is in English, but Chu Xiu can also recognize Wailing Banshee from a female speed type awakener, transformed from a corpse, have independent consciousness, but fail to invade the consciousness. Target has strong self-awareness and cannot control. Waiting for destruction. An uncontrolled zombie with self-awareness. Read the information on the nameplate. Chu Xiu realized the particularity of the zombies in this freezer. Mind moving. The door of the freezer compartment opened slowly. Kai accompanied by cold air being released. The figures in the freezer gradually regained their mobility. Kill me. I'm not going to help you kill. Chapter 157. Why can't I kill you? Kill it. Come out. I'm not with them. Chu Xiu knew about the wailing banshee in the freezer and misunderstood himself. So explained. In the freezer, a beam of eyes fell on Chu Xiu. After confirming that Chu Xiu is not a foreigner's lackey. The slender wailing banshee slowly walked out of the freezer at this time. Chu Xiu finally saw her face. It has to be said that compared with most zombies, the wailing banshee looks reasonable. At least the skin wasn't shriveled and rotten. It's just that the body shape after the mutation has become extremely thin, and the height is terrifying, even 1.5 meters. Thank you. Thank you. The howling banshee walked out of the freezer and expressed her thanks to Chu Xiu in a low voice. Talking room. She avoided her eyes consciously, not daring to meet Chu Xiu's eyes. There was fear in his eyes. This fear stems from her past experience and her confusion about her future. After all, she is no longer human. Wailing banshee, B+ mutant zombie, mutant variants of female zombies. Usually hidden in the shadows and rarely go out during the day. The wailing banshee in front of her was a little different from what Chu Xiu had encountered in a rural town before. The wailing banshee last time was a mutation from a teenage girl in bloom. And this one in front of me, the age is obviously much older. Looks at the age. It is estimated that she is already a mother. Moreover, the normal wailing banshee is a SSSS-level mutant zombie. And this one in front of me, it's a B+ grade. The strength far exceeds the ordinary wailing banshee. If you go a step further, you will be on the same level as a tyrant. Do you have a name? Chu Xiu asked. Chu. Call me a singer. The wailing banshee said. Suddenly stopped. Obviously, after becoming like this, she didn't want to use her parents' names anymore. Although the name is not fully stated, but the surname still came out. Well, it's still a family. Chu Xiu gritted his teeth. On the one hand, he lamented that the wailing banshee had the same last name as him. On the other hand, it was he who sensed through the magnetic field that the people in the third underground floor were moving fast. Obviously, the sound of the Gatling gunshot just now aroused their alertness. Singer. Girl, isn't it? What are your plans now? If you don't want to live the way you are now, I can do it for you right away. Chu Xiu's tone was flat, as if to say something very ordinary. But it is, as long as the singer said she wanted to die, Chu Xiu would kill her without hesitation. The singer was stunned. It was naturally painful to become like this. But do you really want to die? No. I want revenge. I'm going to kill those who made me like this, the singer said suddenly and firmly. Okay, then come with me. Chu Xiu nodded and walked towards the last floor of the experimental building. The singer did not hesitate and immediately followed. Chu Xiu and the singer just came down. The researchers and black-robed soldiers who had been prepared for a long time pulled the trigger without hesitation. Bang bang bang. With the sound of gunfire, bullets rained down. Huh, it's a gun again. Chu Xiu sneered. He didn't even need to actively stop the bullets. Really. Chu Xiu was motionless, but the incoming bullet seemed to hit some invisible barrier in front of Chu Xiu. A meter also was bounced off. It's a repulsive magnetic field. These soldiers are handed over to you for these black-robed soldiers. Chu Xiu was too lazy to do anything. Because they are all ordinary zombies. Killing is 1 point of experience. Good. The singer nodded. Then open her mouth. She becomes a zombie, and her mouth can be opened all the time. The chin almost hangs to the chest, raw, accompanied by a piercing howl. The singer turned into a ghostly figure and rushed towards the culprit of all this and Chu Xiu. In the hail of bullets, he walked steadily towards the deepest part of the laboratory. The bullet grazed him. But none of them can break through his repulsive magnetic field. Soon Chu Xiu came to the innermost part of the laboratory. Pushing open the glass door, an old white man in his 60s sat on a chair. Kind face. It seems to be waiting. for Chu Xiu. You are a very powerful awakener. The white old man looked at Chu Xiu with a strange brilliance in his eyes. Chu Xiu didn't speak for the first time. Instead, he scanned the old white man in front of him. First point name, George CECILS*X, male, talent, primary thinking, invasion, knife 2. Thinking can be stamped on targets with extremely weak thinking. The target who is imbued with the ideological stencil will firmly believe in the content of the stencil. Egg water is highly toxic. Young man, you shouldn't be on my opposite side. My purpose is to save all mankind. You can also see that with my method, more people can be kept alive. I'm the savior of this world. Kill me. You are destroying the world. While Chu Xiu scans, the old white man was chattering all the time. And in the process of his speech, a wave of spiritual energy that was invisible to the naked eye fluctuated. It is continuing to spread to Chu Xiu. Trying to change Chu Xiu's mind. Did you misunderstand me? Do you think I look like a weak-minded person? Chu Xiu looked at Cecil coldly. Imposing a thought stamp. Sounds like a great deal. But in fact, judging from the intensity of the energy fluctuations, this talent cannot even change the thoughts of ordinary people. Not to mention the awakened. If I'm not mistaken, your ability should be used on those zombies. Chu Xiu's tone was sarcastic. This intensity of thinking invades. I can only bully those zombies who have just transformed. And have you? Are you going to kill me? After being pierced by Chu Xiu, Dr. Cecil's expression finally changed. On the hooked nose in the shape of a barb, it's a pair of wolf-like green eyes. Do you know how many zombies I control? If you kill me, these zombies will get out of control. How you are here to save 580 people. Dr. Cecil sneered. The old face, with the arrogant eyes in the bones of Westerners. I tell you, if you kill me, your countrymen will have 2s. The dead words have not been uttered. A silver light pierced through Dr. Cecil's head. Between its brows, create a hole 3 fingers wide. Grumpy. Makes me think you have a whole card. So that's all? Chu Xiu looked disdainful. Drive. Cecil with a big hole in his forehead. Eyes full of shock. He didn't understand until he died. Why did Chu Xiu dare to do it directly? Wasn't he afraid that those zombies would get out of control? You killed the LV2 awakened, devouring target talent, primary mind invasion LV2, get 4 fusion points, it's dead. Chu Xiu was a little surprised. Listen to those thinking zombies. Sip the great Dr. Cecil 0. Does Chu Xiu still think how powerful this guy is? The result is this. Chu Xiu was stunned when suddenly, the earth trembled slightly. Rumble. The tremors gradually increased. The glass of water next to it, with the tremor, gradually swayed. Confused, Chu Xiu reached out and touched the wall. Connect to earth through walls. The induction of the imperial soil began to take effect, and it seized the outside situation by sensing vibration. The corpse tide. Chu Xiu withdrew his hand. He glanced at Dr. Cecil, who was already dead. You didn't brag about it, did you? Chapter 158. The corpse tide is coming. How terrible are the zombies with human nature? The other side. At the moment, when Chu Xiu killed Dr. Cecil. Within a few kilometers, there are countless unique shapes, such as stinging roars, sickle zombies, tentacle zombies, and so on. They all noticed something at the same time. They stopped wondering. Then they rushed in the direction of Xingmui Science and Technology Park. Roar. Hoo-hoo. The riots of these mutant zombies triggered a chain reaction. A large number of uncontrolled ordinary zombies. They were also surrounded by the rioting corpses, forming a larger corpse group and attacking the Science and Technology Park. At the same time. The Technology Park was also in chaos. No. The great Dr. Cecil is dead. It's these damn humans. Kill them. The black-robed soldier who was originally responsible for the guard work. A sudden change in personality. He picked up the robbery and launched an attack on the survivors in the base, as well as some foreign personnel. Xingmui Technology Industrial Park. As an industrial park jointly built by several foreign-funded enterprises here, in addition to the researchers in the medical building, there are actually many foreigners who survived. There are free people, surrender people, neon people, etc. Stop. Shit. Are you crazy, idiot? Because There is no experience in pharmaceutical research and development. These people did not directly participate in the research work, but they were still the main accomplices of the zombies of the living point. At the same time they are also the senior management of Xingmei base point. Seeing the soldiers in black robes who could be commanded at will suddenly went crazy. They instinctively wanted to scold point, but in response to their "but it is a pair of zombies unique bloodthirsty eyes, you, humanity, killed the great Dr. Cecil." These black-robed soldiers, when they completed the zombie transformation, were implanted with ideological steel seals by Cecil. Stamped content is to regard Cecil as the only true god. Supreme faith. Now, Dr. Cecil died. The faith of the black-robed soldiers collapsed, and they tore off their disguise one after another with the hideous face of zombies. Slaughter all the living people in the base that can be seen. Bang bang bang. At the same time, the gunshots are loud. Even more frightening is that these gunshots are all from the hands of zombies, not humans. Ah. Shit. Damn Cecil, what did he do to these damn zombies? Other foreigners in the park cursed the dead Dr. Cecil. But all cursing, nothing can change the tragic situation. Soldiers in black robes, standing at a high place, shot at the living people who were fleeing indiscriminately. People killed by guns, nor are they wasted. Soon there will be soldiers in black robes jumping on these corpses and feasting on them. Even more frightening were the black-robed soldiers outside the base. They directly opened the doors to the east, south, west, and north of the base. Let the corpses from outside pour into the base. Quickly close the door. Compared with the outside world, those foreigners who were slaughtered by black-robed soldiers, and some of the foreigners who took refuge in them, survivors detained in factories and buildings, the situation is better. In order to prevent them from escaping, the soldiers in black robes sealed all the redundant doors and windows. Only a few key exits remain. Now, they just need to use something to export these few keys. Instead, you can temporarily resist the zombies outside, but only temporarily. After all, except for zombies, there are also black-robed soldiers who can use human weapons. Quick, go get the bazooka, blast the door. 9 zombies of human thinking, and they also stand on the opposite side of human beings. The most terrifying thing is this. Do not, Mom, I'm so scared. No, we shouldn't be here listening to the radio. Woo. Survivors in the building heard voices outside. Immediately mess up. Despair is in the air. At the same time, in the third basement of Huami Pharmaceutical Technology Building, Chu Xiu also saw the situation outside through the earth sense of the room. Zombies are zombies, even if there is a human mind. It's not a species after all. Watching the black-robed soldiers outside open the door, let the zombies pour into the base, Chu Xiu finally understood why Beizao said, transforming people into zombies is a very stupid thing, not my race. His heart will be punished when a person becomes a zombie, even if he still retains the thinking of his life. Not to mention what other humans think of him. Just himself. In fact, I knew very well in my heart that I was no longer human, but zombies. Once people have a position on their identity, they will soon change their original ideas. After all, since ancient times, it is the skin that decides the head, as expected of a savior. Oh, it's just that the zombies are being saved. Chu Xiu glanced at the dead Dr. Cecil. A wave of hands, the steel balls around him immediately shot over, tearing Cecil's body to shreds. To this white-skinned pig against humanity, Chu Xiu wouldn't even leave him a complete body. The reason why he didn't copy his mind invasion was not only because the ability itself was weak, but also because Chu Xiu didn't even want to touch this white-skinned pig. Nausea. After the corpse is destroyed, Chu Xiu turned around and returned to the corridor. The battles in the corridors and in the laboratory are long over. There are broken limbs all over the place. All black-robed soldiers and researchers died tragically on the spot. Terrible death. It's like being attacked by a wild beast. Disembodied. Blood smeared all over the walls and floors, and the stench of blood rushing toward them made people dizzy. Sizzle. Crunch. In the corner of the wall, the wailing banshee was lying on the corpse of a foreign researcher. It seems to be eating something. Chu Xiu saw this scene. I was even more convinced of the idea of zombies are not human in my heart. Shojirul, Chu Xiu shouted coldly. He was not sure if the singer had lost control like other zombies, so when speaking, ready to attack, the surrounding fine metal condensed into a ball, flew over. Here. The word singer. The waiting banshee who buried her head gnawing at the corpse trembled and raised her head sharply. No. Looking at the bones in front of her, the singer seemed to have just come back to her senses. Scared backwards, he supported the floor with his backhand and stepped back again and again. Vomit. Then, retching up. The reason for etching is because the zombie-like singer has lost the ability to vomit. Flesh in the stomach. It doesn't take a moment to convert energy. Do not woo. When I found myself unable to vomit, the singer knelt on the ground and burst into tears. But her actions have proved one thing. You, Lee Clients, didn't lose control. The killing intent in Chu Xiu's eyes lightened slightly. But still did not let down his guard. Kill me, please, kill me. Hearing Chu Xiu's voice, the singer turned around and knelt down to Chu Xiu. Talking room. There was still blood dripping from her mouth. The eyes are desperate, but in the despair, there is a hint of longing for life. Human nature is so complicated. When death comes, there will always be something to hold you back. Obviously. There is still something in the singer's heart that can't be let go. The eyes that made her begging for death became more tired and more hesitant and no longer firm. Cut yourself off. There is a corpse tied outside. I have to deal with it. Chu Xiu noticed this, choose to refuse, turn around and leave the corpse. The singer was taken aback. Then she seemed to think of something. Little tiger. The little tiger is still there. I can't die yet. I have to save Xiao. The singer found a reason to live and quickly wiped the blood from her mouth. Quickly rushed out of the building. Chapter 159. It turns out that this is the so-called slaughter. Raw. Quick. Find the doctor. Chu Xiu just came out of the basement. He met several black-robed soldiers with rifles. These zombies, stenciled with thought, are frantically searching for the murderer of Dr. Cecil. To this end, they have slaughtered countless people who kill him. Seeing Chu Xiu, several black-robed soldiers raised their guns without hesitation. But I haven't had time to pull the trigger. Swoosh, a silver light flashed. Like threading a needle, it pierced through the heads of all the black-robed soldiers. Puff. Then these black-robed soldiers fell down almost at the same time. You kill ordinary zombies. Experience value +1. You kill. Accompanied by a beep. Chu Xiu didn't even look at the dead black-robed soldier. Even the pace has not been slowed down in the slightest. 6 feet. Kill all these humans. Raw. When I came to the outside of the building, the scene in front of me was like hell. It's burning everywhere. The streets in the industrial park have been completely occupied by zombies and black-robed soldiers. These black-robed soldiers armed with guns, along with countless grotesque zombies, recklessly gnawed the corpses of dead humans around. Blood, flame, gunshots, scream, all sorts of horrific sights and sounds mingled. Gives the illusion of being in hell. 580. Do not an illusion. This is hell. Boom. As soon as Chu Xiu came out, he saw not far away the entrance of a building where the survivors were being held. An explosion occurred. A black-robed soldier blasted the building's entrance with a bazooka. Then, file in. Help. Inside the building, the survivors' cry for help soon came. Chu Xiu just wanted to shoot little tiger. Suddenly there was a sharp howl from behind. Then, a ghostly figure rushed out of the building behind Chu Xiu. Quickly rushed to the building in front. Is a singer. Raw. The singer rushed into the building and rushed directly at the black-robed soldiers. The 5 claws are as sharp as steel knives. With a single wave, the head of a black-robed soldier can be cut in half. It's even easier to disembowel. In just a moment, several black-robed soldiers in the building were all tortured and killed by the singer in an extremely cruel way. 9. What? The cruel scene scared the other survivors in the building to scream. And in the corner a little boy less than 10 years old also covered his eyes in fear. Little tiger. After the singer killed all the black-robed soldiers, her eyes searched in the crowd. But the people around were like watching the plague, madly staying away from her. Even the boy in the corner. The singer looked at this scene absently. The hand that was stretched out was also slowly put down. Little Tiger, you'll be fine. Point. The singer buried this sentence in her heart. Point. Then he left the building without hesitation. Point. In order to protect her children, she wants to kill all the zombies outside. Point. Can wait for the singer to come outside. Point. But I found that there were already corpses everywhere. A shocking picture appeared in front of her eyes. The man I met in the laboratory before was walking on the street barefoot, like a leisurely stroll. Raw. Countless zombies rushed towards him, but he was expressionless, as if he hadn't seen it. Boom boom boom. Within a few hundred meters, rows of sharp stone thorns rose from the ground. After piercing the body of a series of zombies. Point. Back to the ground again. Point. Stab again, and so on and on. Shoot. Kill him. Some black-robed soldiers noticed the movement here, but they hadn't had time to shoot. The firearms in their hands were sucked into the sky by an invisible force. Then it fires automatically. Bang bang bang. In an instant, gunshots rang out. Point. The dense bullets formed several flame tongues and shot at the zombies. Point. Until the bullets run out. Point. These guns will melt and disintegrate into hundreds of silver throwing knives. Within a radius of several hundred meters, move quickly and harvest zombies. Deb, like a harvester. The singer looked a little dumbfounded before turning into a zombie. She was actually an awakener, although she was a speed type. Point. But the singer also knows at this stage, there is simply no awakened person who can be so powerful. Point. Facing a steady stream of hundreds of zombies, to be able to walk around like this. I don't know if he has established a base. If there is, Zyro who has a place to go. Point. See the strength of Chu Xiu. The singer couldn't help muttering to herself. Point. But when it's over, she rushed towards the other zombies. Raw. The songstress who becomes the wailing banshee. Point. During the battle, there is always a sharp roar uncontrollably. Point. What is interesting. Point. Maybe because of similarities, except for the equally thoughtful black-robed soldiers, most zombies would not take the initiative to attack the singer. Will fight back after being attacked. But the singer, as a B+ grade mutant zombie, after being attacked by her, few zombies survived to fight back. Most of them are one-hit kills. The singer's sharp claws can easily cut through the heads of zombies with the identity of a zombie. Point. The singer's battle was also extremely smooth. Point. Although the efficiency is not as exaggerated as Chu Xiu, it can also be said to be chopping melons and vegetables. Oh, I didn't expect that one day I would actually join forces with zombies. Not far away, Chu Xiu noticed the singer's actions. He couldn't help but let out a sigh. Point. The reality is so ridiculous. Feeling finished, Chu Xiu stomped his foot. Point. Boom. In the tremor of the earth, the surrounding of Xingmei Science and Technology Park slowly rises with 4 towering earth walls. It's 10 stories tall. The thickness is even more able to accommodate a car on top of Mercedes-Benz. Raw. Hoo. Hoo hoo. The rise of the earth wall blocked the continuous influx of zombies from the periphery. For the zombies that have entered the park, Chu Xiu's eyes narrowed for a moment. Within a radius of 100 meters, hundreds of flying knives flickered more frequently. The silver light left by the flying knife was almost intertwined into a net. Point. Zombies are falling in pieces, except for a small number of mutant zombies with strong defense. They can withstand the attack of flying knives. The rest of the zombies, impossible to resist at all. Those black-robed zombies with human thinking, in the final analysis, are just ordinary zombies, harvested by flying knives, falling down in pieces. So this is the so-called massacre. Looking at the black-robed zombies dressed as dogs, Chu Xiu seemed to understand Li Qiu's massacre. Point. 2 outsiders, Li Qiu and the others, killed the entire base. Point. But actually. Point. Are those people really people? Chapter 160. There are still 2 awakens alive. Under the efficient harvest of Chu Xiu, in the park, thousands of ordinary zombies, including black-robed zombies, soon died. Point. The rest are mutants like sickle zombies and tentacle zombies, but these are only C rank. Point. Not even a tyrant. Point. Boom. A stinging roar locked Chu Xiu. Point. A compressed air burst out of his mouth, pushing the spikes. This time, Chu Xiu did not dodge. Point. Instead, he summoned a thick iron plate. Point. Block accompanied by the sound of gold and iron colliding. Point. The iron plate was almost broken down, and a deep depression appeared on the iron plate. Point. The bony spikes shattered. Point. It turned into residue and sputtered around. That's it. Chu Xiu's thoughts moved, and the earth suddenly shook. Point. Hundreds of thousands of tons of rock tumbled up from the ground. Point. Forms a giant rock arm. Point. Slap. To thorn raw point boom. The boulder fell point the earth trembled again point boom. A building not far away, perhaps because the quality is not good enough point actually shaking, collapsed. There were no survivors in the building. You killed the SSSS level mutant zombies. Stinging raw. EXP plus 300. Raw. Just. When Chu Xiu did the same thing and killed other mutant zombies, the singer rushed out from the side point. The ghostly figure threw himself directly on the body of a sickle zombie point. The sickle zombies haven't reacted to what happened point. The singer's claws pierced its brain point. Then the singer stepped on the shoulder of the sickle zombie and jumped up point. He pounced on a tentacled zombie not far away. It's up to you here point. Seeing this, after Chu Xiu left a sentence, release the repulsive magnetic field, the whole person rose from the ground and flew towards the earth wall he just raised. Raw. Hoo ho ho. Under the earth wall, there are already piles of zombies point densely packed, like stacking pyramids one on top of one on top of another. The original 10-story high earth wall has been used by them in this way of stacking human walls, breaking through the height of the 7-story building. Send. Experience, right? Chu Xiu landed on the top of the earth wall point, walking barefoot on the soft soil point. Consciousness is connected to the earth point. Then Chu Xiu thought the huge earth wall, 10 stories high and 4 or 5 meters wide, slowly collapsed point with a posture like the top of Mount A, smashed like a mountain of zombies. And not just this wall point outside the Xingmei base, the earth walls in the 4 directions of the south, east, and northwest all collapsed at the same time point boom. The earth trembled uncontrollably point. It was like an earthquake of magnitude 8. Thousands of tons of high walls of dirt came crashing down point. Although it is dirt and not rock point, but this weight is enough to crush most of the zombies point boom. The moment the earth wall fell point, the earth trembled, and then the world seemed to be quiet. Or countless flesh and blood are like jam point. It squeezed out in the gap between the earth wall and the earth point like ketchup that fell on the ground and was accidentally stepped on point. You kill point. You kill point. You kill point. Countless zombies were made into patties. There are so many beeps that the system is too late to broadcast. It took more than 10 seconds for the earth to stop shaking, and the beeps in Chu Xiu's ears finally stopped being so dense. To summarize, Chu Xiu's voice just fell point. The system will have to prompt jumped out point. You killed 1141 ordinary zombies. Gain 1141 experience. You killed 211 E-level mutant zombies. Gain 2110 experience. You killed 167 E-level mutant zombies. Gained 80 experience points. You killed 87 C-level mutant zombies. Gained 21,400 experience points. Current EXP 1,810. This time, this small corpse tide of nearly 10,000 was completely killed by Chu Xiu. Most of the zombies are piled up in front of the dirt wall, cleared by Chu Xiu with one blow. Although there are still a steady stream of zombies rushing over, the number is no longer an effective threat. It should be almost there. Chu Xiu was suspended in mid-air, watching the sparse zombies approach. Understand that this crisis should be lifted. Reduce the repulsive magnetic field. Find a clean place to drop off. A stomp point boom, where the earth wall collapsed just now. 4 earth walls slowly rose again point. It is also close to the height of a 10-story building point, the same as 3 or 4 meters wide point. Only this time, the rising earth wall glows eerily red. The soil was also very wet, as if it had been soaked with something. The wind blows. The pungent bloody smell wafted from the earth wall. Do it all. Chu Xiu walked towards the buildings, where the survivors were point seeking flowers. As he moved forward, the ground in front of him kept rolling zombie corpses along the way. All the tumbling dirt was brought to the ground and buried. Along the way, there was not a trace of blood on Chu Xiu's feet. As for mud, that's even more impossible. A person who has the ability to control the soil, but also let himself get soiled. Soon, Chu Xiu returned to the center of the industrial park point. The battle of the showgirls is also over. There are broken limbs all around. Of the zombies killed by the singer, no complete body can be found. Ask you something. The first thing Chu Xiu did when he came over was to ask the singer, I see that the sign they put on you says you were unawakened before. Yes. The singer nodded and said, I'm a speed type awakener 0. It used to be point. After that, the singer added another sentence point. Now she is no longer an awakened person, not even a human being point, just a complete zombie point. Obviously, Chu Xiu is also aware of this, so he wasn't asking about the singer. You shouldn't be the only awakener who came here with you. Chu Xiu asked point. After coming to Xingmei Science and Technology Park for so long, except for Cecil who died, and the singer who was once awakened, Chu Xiu never met any awakened again. This is obviously not common sense. Well, there are 3 awakens with me. There are a few more ahead of me. The singer nodded and said truthfully. What about them? Chu Xiu already had a bad feeling in his heart, but he still asked. The singer was silent for a while, then set her eyes on the mutant zombies she killed around her. It's all here, the singer said desolately. Chu Xiu was also silent. A deep cold chill emanated from his body. What the hell? It's too cheap to let this old thing die. Chu Xiu regretted that he was too blunt. I didn't torture that Dr. Cecil to death. But it's over. There is nothing more to say. Fortunately, hundreds of survivors were rescued on this trip, sent to the arsenal, and several production lines were expanded. Not at all wrong. There is one more awakened alive. No, it should be 2. Suddenly, the singer seemed to think of something, and said quickly. Chapter 161 The Golden Tree. Toxin Immunity. When I was locked in the freezer, although I couldn't move, my consciousness was awake. There were 2 foreigners talking. My English is not good. I only heard words like the doctor can't control it, and a rare spiritual awakener. As the singer recalled, she took Chu Xiu with her to the northwest corner of the Science and Technology Park, a building that resembles a warehouse goes. If I remember correctly, the place of detention they said at the time should be here. Before coming to this flat-roofed building with only 3 floors, the singer said. Chu Xiu closed his eyes. The magnetic field is induced to diffuse out, penetrating one wall after another. I scanned the building carefully, inside and out. Soon, Chu Xiu discovered a biomagnetic field in a room on the 2nd floor of the building. But the magnetic field is very weak. It is not at all that an awakened person should have the strength of 580, not even an ordinary person. You sure there are 2 awakened here? Chu Xiu glanced at the singer beside him, and walked towards the building. I am also not certain. It's possible they moved people. The singer quickly followed behind Chu Xiu. She was always on the verge of speaking, as if there was something she wanted to say, but she didn't dare to say it. Chu Xiu didn't look back though. But he had already discovered the strangeness of the singer, and knew that she must be asking for something from him. This lord. The singer opened her mouth, but found that she didn't even know the name of the man in front of her. My name is Chu Xiu. Let me speak directly. Chu Xiu said, but did not stop or slow down for the singer. Enter the building. He went straight to the 2nd floor and walked towards the scanned biomagnetic field. Lord Chu Xiu, I have a son who is 9 years old. I think. The singer hesitated for a long time, still unable to speak. Because she knew that she was just a zombie and could not give Chu Xiu anything. Unrelated. The man in front of him had no reason to agree to him. You want me to take care of your son, right? Chu Xiu paused slightly, looking back at the singer with a blank face. He continued, but you also know that you are a zombie. You can't give me any benefits, right? I'm useful. I can collect supplies for you. I am a zombie. I can enter the city. Other zombies will not attack me. Whatever you want, as long as it is available in the city, I will definitely be able to get it for you. The singer was anxious, and in order to give her son a way out, she racked her brains to create value for herself. After listening to what the singer has to say, Chu Xiu frowned slightly, as if thinking about something. To be frank, for him, material things are not very important. With Chu Xiu's current strength, it is not difficult to enter the city to collect supplies. So the collecting supplies that the singer said was not the reason for Chu Xiu's thinking. In this way, I can let your child join my base and find someone to take care of him. Chu Xiu thought for a while and decided to let Professor Hay from Hushan base adopt the child. Certainly. Not free. Thank you. Thank you. I will do whatever you ask me to do. The singer obviously understood this and knelt down directly to show her loyalty. You just have to do one thing for me. Chu Xiu looked at the singer who was kneeling on the ground and slowly said a location. Go to Shanghai X City and look for a golden tree. Shanghai of millions. It can be said that the danger of Shanghai X market has reached the point where life is forbidden point, but nonetheless, in the future, there will still be countless awakened and survivor scavengers pouring into the city one after another point in order. Just look for the golden tree. The position of this tree is random. No one knows where it is. No one knows why it moved, but there is one thing that has been agreed upon in the future. That is the fruit of the golden tree, with an irresistible power. Let ordinary people become awakened ones. It is good. The singer agreed without hesitation. Although she had never heard of any trees that were golden, she did not know how to look for them. But as long as the child can survive, even if she went up the mountain of knives and went down to the sea of fire, she would not hesitate. Take this with you, Chu Xiu said, and took out a button-shaped thing from his pocket. This is the tracker that Beizao made before. Chu Xiu finds it easy to use. I asked Beizao how much more he wanted, and he always took it with him. There's a red button on it. If you find the golden tree, press the button and my side will know. Chu Xiu threw the tracker to the singer without looking back. He went upstairs and went straight to the room where the biomagnetic singer field was sensed. The put the tracker close to her body. Also followed. Second floor, go down the hallway to the end. Chu Xiu stopped in front of a metal door. That's it. Through magnetic field sensing, Chu Xiu has sensed the weak biomagnetic field inside the door. Mind a move. The latch of the metal door opens automatically. The iron door opened. A figure tied to the operating table appeared in Chu Xiu's eyes. The figure is extremely thin. Almost skinny, but he was still tightly bound with restraint belts and wrapped around the operating table like a zangzi. At the same time, there are several needle tubes next to him, which have been drawing his blood. Maybe it's because it's too much. The blood in the needle is no longer red, but milky white, like milk. What did they do to him? The singer looked at this scene in shock. She thought that turning a living person into a zombie was already terrifying, and the man in front of him obviously suffered worse than himself. It's simply life is better than death. And, to keep him alive, there are also several tubes inserted directly into his mouth. 4.1 nose. Some are responsible for supplying oxygen, and some are directly inserted into their esophagus to perfuse food in it. Chu Xiu looked at this scene coldly. The attributes of the silhouette were also scanned. Name, Hu Tianlangs X, male, talent, primary virus immunity LV2, immune to common toxins, with certain resistance to zombies, immunotoxin, have a certain resistance to zombies. See these two introductions. Chu Xiu suddenly thought of something and quickly took out a tube of orange potion from his pocket. It was the medicine that the few foreigners fought for each other during the infection process. It seems that these foreigners used this person's blood to develop resistance medicine. After turning people into zombies, they can still retain their original thinking. Chu Xiu had the answer in his heart. Chapter 162, Spiritual Shielding. Copy. After understanding the abilities of the skinny man on the operating table, Chu Xiu stepped forward decisively. He touched the other person's shoulder. Copy. Mind. A move. The system prompt sounded immediately. Pointing. Successful copying. Obtain primary toxin immunity LV2. The degree of disease was changed to toxin, because the word degree of disease cannot pass. Just when Chu Xiu finished copying. He seemed to sense that someone was touching him. On the operating table, the thin and skinny figure slowly opened his eyelids. Hollow eyes. There was no trace of anger, not even despair, only endless numbness, because he was too weak. It took Hu Xianliang several seconds just to open his eyes when he saw the person standing in front of him. It's not a foreigner who knocks bones and sucks marrow on weekdays, but a Chinese. There was finally a change in Hu Xianliang's eyes. Hu Xianliang was unable to speak because of the catheter inserted in his throat. And he didn't have the strength to speak. You want me to kill you? But Chu Xiu still understood what he meant. Hu Xianliang used his last strength and blinked his eyes. Ro. Chu Xiu nodded. As soon as his mind moved, a piece of metal turned into a sharp blade, piercing Hu Xianliang's eyebrows cleanly. The speed is too fast to cause pain. In an instant, the thin figure on the operating table closed his eyes. The target talent has been copied and cannot be swallowed. It seems that the bug can't be stuck. Chu Xiu thought about whether he could copy first and then kill to get 2 fusion points. But obviously, this obvious bug doesn't work, isn't he concerned? Looking at the thin man on the operating table, accepting death so calmly and calmly, the singer was a little lost. Chu Xiu also asked her the question of being a co-star, but the singer at the time was hesitant in the end. He's not like you. You have children and concerns, but he doesn't. Chu Xiu said calmly. Done. Something seems to have come to mind. Look back at the singer. By the way, what did you say you heard in the freezer? 5A. Rare spiritual awakener? Chu Xiu asked. He remembered that what the singer said at the time was that she heard a foreigner talking about a spiritual awakener and Hu Xianliang, who died in front of him. Obviously it has nothing to do with the spirit department. Also, are you sure those foreigners said that 2 awakened survived? Chu Xiu asked again. Okay. Although my English is not very good, I can still distinguish between 1 and 2. The singer nodded. She was sure that the foreigners were talking about the 2 awakened ones. The other could be held elsewhere. How about we go to the building next door to look for it? The singer asked tentatively. Chu Xiu shook his head. I have a hunch that there are other people in this building. Chu Xiu finished. Closing your eyes, the magnetic field senses and sweeps the entire building again. But still nothing. In the building, there is only the biomagnetic field of him and the singer, and there is no third one. Is it possible to shield the magnetic field induction? Chu Xiu thought of this possibility. So he turned his attention to the earth sense of U2. For a moment. The vibration in the whole building is clear. Saucer. Even the movement of a cockroach crawling through the water pipe. Chu Xiu could clearly sense it, but still nothing. It doesn't seem to be here. Just when Chu Xiu was about to give up searching, suddenly, a room in the corner of the 3rd floor caught his attention. Compared to other rooms, this room is so quiet. There were more or less vibrations in other rooms. As I said earlier, even if a cockroach crawled, Chu Xiu could clearly sense it. And there was no movement in this room. Whether it is a sense of the earth or magnetic field induction. Entering this room is like sinking into the sea without any feedback. When things go wrong, there must be demons. Interesting. Is it a shielding type of ability? Chu Xiu has basically determined that another awakened person should be in that room. Then Chu Xiu hurried upstairs. What I saw was another locked iron door. After opening, the same screen appears again. Another figure was restrained by the restraint belt, firmly bound to the operating table. A guide tube was still inserted in his mouth. Only this time, there are no blood drawing needles around. Name, Zhu Xianqi. Gender, female. Talent, Spirit Shield LV1, shields most of the exploration of spiritual power. It has a certain defense power and defense effect against mental attack, which increases with the level of the talent. It's actually a mental shield. Seeing the scan results, Chu Xiu's eyes showed surprise. The attack method of psychic powers is strange and unchangeable. The ability to defend against mental attacks naturally increases in importance. Copy. Without any hesitation, Chu Xiu stepped forward and chose to copy. Successful copying. Get Spirit Shield LV1, accompanied by a beep. Another wave of energy poured into Chu Xiu's body. But her LV1 talent, the energy provided, is compared to Chu Xiu's own. Naturally it is minimal. But Chu Xiu doesn't care how many attributes this talent provides him. Its mental defense effect is the most important. System, expand my properties. Chu Xiu thought about it. A panel immediately appeared. Name, Chu Xiu. System level. 3 strength. 327 agility. 138 constitution. 434 plus 25 immunity to copy toxin, energy. 1194 plus 11 copy spirit. 580 shield, talent, magnetic field control LV5 thunder control LV4 royal land LV4 advanced giant LV3 primary self-healing LV3 full, primary flashing LV3 full, beginner. Haste LV2 primary toxin immunity LV2 mental shield LV1 used slot. 9/20 experience value 1 810 fusion points. 4 it's getting more comprehensive. Looking at the long list of ability interfaces, Chu Xiu showed a satisfied smile in his heart, but it didn't show on the face. In addition to being happy, Chu Xiu felt a little sorry for Beizao again, mainly thinking of every time Beizao wanted to develop something for himself, he often hadn't built it yet. I mastered this skill in advance. This made Beizao work very hard, but he has been working in vain. This time is no exception. Beizao just planned to design a mental shielding device, but he has already mastered this ability. Hopefully she hasn't started designing. Chu Xiu can only think so at the same time. On the other side, in Villa number 9 in Yejiang Garden, Beizao was constantly flipping through documents look for materials to make shielding in the trash can at her feet filled with discarded design sketches. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 163 I Can Kill You Only by Me. Check out the property list. Only then did Chu Xiu set his eyes on the woman on the operating table. Unlike Zhao Xianliang, who is as thin as firewood. This time, on the operating table is a young woman. But her eyes were empty, like a fool, staring straight at the ceiling. Is this a lobe removed? The performance of a woman reminded Chu Xiu of, in the biological laboratory that they went to, the awakened ones whose brain lobes were removed. That is, the guys called 3s and 4s. The performance of this woman in front of you, exactly like them. Wrong. If the brain fluid was removed, I wouldn't be able to replicate it. But soon, Chu Xiu overturned this speculation. The reason is simple. Awakened brain damage the system will prompt. The talent is incomplete, cannot be copied, cannot be upgraded, and the ability of the woman in front of her can be replicated. Naturally, it cannot be that the lobes of the brain have been removed. Is he supposed to be a fool? Chu Xiu used a magnetic field to attract a piece of metal, poked the woman's cheek, and found that there was still no response. This idea became more and more certain in my mind. Police stamped. I'm not dead, and I'm not a fool. But the next second, the woman spoke, originally looking at the ceiling. He also looked at Chu Xiu. The only thing that hasn't changed is that her eyes are still very empty. As if my heart was dead. There is no nostalgia for the world. What did they do to you? Chu Xiu paused and asked. What else? Insults, abuses, and a series of inhumane experiments. Zhu Xianqi said lightly, as if it all happened to someone else. Then, do you want to die or live now? Chu Xiu changed his question. As long as a woman said she wanted to die, Chu Xiu would kill her without hesitation. Just like killing Zhao Xianliang just now. Live. Obviously there is no hope for life. But Zhu Xianqi still chose to live without hesitation. Okay. Chu Xiu nodded and glanced at the woman admiringly. Although her ability is not strong and not yet fighting but her mentality is the key to surviving in this cruel apocalypse. Stabbed. Chu Xiu manipulated a piece of metal from the air, turned it into a sharp blade, and cut off the straps on the woman's body. Zhao Xianqi, right, you can join my base. Of course, if you don't want to join, you can live on your own terms. Do it all. After Chu Xiu left a sentence, he left the building without looking back. The purpose of his trip has all been achieved. What to do now? It is to accept the hundreds of survivors and bring back the lithography machine that Beizao needs in the technology park. Inside the factory, where the survivors are being held, their entrance, that had been blasted open by the black-robed soldiers with a bazooka, was blocked again by the survivors inside. At this time, these more than 100 survivors are huddled together at a loss. The sounds outside had stopped. But they don't know what's going on outside. How about someone go out and see? Someone whispered a suggestion. But no one responded. Because no one knows whether the zombies are all dead outside or the zombies have killed all the human beings and are eating. In this case, no one dared to go out to check. We stay here and die sooner or later. Can you die if you go out? There were more and more voices of despair in the crowd. More than 100 people were locked up in the same building without food or water. Despair began to spread. I Do not care. What? It's a big deal that labor and capital are fighting with those monsters. A middle-aged man dressed as a migrant worker stood up. Even if you are shot to death, eaten to death by zombies, I don't want to starve to death either. The migrant worker shouted loudly. Unlike others, in his simple thinking, he understands a very critical issue. People are very hungry. It will eat people. So he would rather go out and fight the zombies to the death. I don't want to spend it here. Transform yourself into a man-eating monster that is bigger than a zombie. Any of you want to go out with me? The migrant workers looked around the crowd and shouted. A boy stood up and I am with you. Then more and more people stood up. Many of them are also aware of the problems that migrant workers are aware of. So choose to fight to the death. Okay. Let's move things out of the way. The farmer nodded. Just as they were about to remove the tables, chairs, and benches that were blocking the entrance. Boom. Factory side wall. Suddenly, an invisible force was forcibly pulled away and removed from the main structure of the building. It's like Lego bricks that have been pulled away. The sun shines directly through the gap in the wall. A tall figure. Against the light, it appeared in the eyes of everyone. Sure enough, concrete is not unmanageable. It's just a little harder than rocks and dirt. Chu Xiu was still recalling the operation just now. The sand and gravel structure in concrete can also be controlled by the ability to control the earth only. The mental power required to manipulate concrete, far beyond the direct manipulation of rock and soil. Mental power. Cough. Cough. Everyone came out. The zombies outside are dead. Chu Xiu coughed lightly, and his eyes fell on the survivors. My name is Chu Xiu. He's the leader of Hushan base. Wait, a helicopter will come to pick you up, and you will board in turn. My people will arrange work for you. Eat and live. You just need to work with peace of mind. Chu Xiu said quietly, although the tone was gentle, but there was a hint of unquestionable tone. Why should we listen to you? But there were still untimely voices in the crowd. It also corresponds to that sentence. There are more people. Any bird has it. Why? Chu Xiu sneered, his eyes locked on this person. The speaker was a young man with dyed yellow hair. Airflow. It looks like a thorn. When the migrant worker said that he was going out to fight the zombies, he didn't even dare to let go of his farts. Now. I heard that the zombies died, but they jumped out again. All of this was clearly seen by Chu Xiu using magnetic field induction. Very well, let me tell you why. Chu Xiu finished. A piece of metal flew from a distance. Wrapped the yellow-haired youth's throat and hoisted it into the air. Leak irons. Yellow hair strangled by metal. Constantly struggling. Hands and feet danced in the air, but as soon as Chu Xiu waved his hand, he was sucked in from a distance. Just relying on the zombies outside, I killed them all. With all your lives, I saved them all. Chu Xiu looked at everyone and said. At the end, Chu Xiu turned his attention to the yellow hair in front of him. His eyes flashed fiercely. Just I can kill you anytime. The voice fell. The metal tightens sharply. Catcher Huang Mao stopped struggling instantly. The crowd that had been noisy also quieted down. Chu Xiu looked at this scene coldly. The Liwei item has obviously been completed. As for Huanirao. In the apocalypse, there is no need for Huanirao means at all. Just keep them fed. Give them security. Before long, these people will be as loyal as the people in the Hushan base. It sounds cruel, but this is the social law of doomsday. Chapter 164 Female Fighter Flying. Students, with this killing the chicken to warn the monkeys. The remaining survivors are all honest. Of course, the reason for their honesty, in addition to fear of Chu Xiu's force, is a bigger part of the reason. I heard Chu Xiu say that all the zombies outside were killed by him. They were all saved. With a glimmer of anticipation, people have turned their attention to the gap in the factory wall. Look, the zombies are really dead. Those black-robed soldiers are also dead. Haha. We are saved. Through the gap, people found the corpses of black-robed soldiers outside. For a moment. The survivors boiled over. They embraced each other and cried with the joy of the rest of their lives in a blink of an eye. People's attitude towards Chu Xiu also changed 180 degrees. It was just because of Chu Xiu's force had to surrender. But now, it is because of the gratitude for the life-saving grace, and I'm sincerely convinced He saved us. Chu. Chief Chu. Chief. Chu. Chief. Chu. Some people still remember Chu Xiu's self-introduction and started point all of a sudden point more than 100 people in the factory all shouted in unison point after all. Thorns are only a rare case point doomsday 580 miles. Most survivors have a simple idea. Whoever keeps me alive is a good person. Let's all go out. The helicopter is coming. By the way, call out the survivors in other factories or buildings as well. Chu Xiu ordered point this time. There was no objection point people responded point leave the factory in an orderly manner in an open space in the park. The team stood up point at the same time. Some people ran to the nearby factory and building and called out the survivors inside point soon point all the survivors in the park gathered together. Chu Xiu stood at a high place and used the magnetic field induction to briefly scan it. There were about 500 people point most of them are young adults. There are only about 200 people, young and old, women and children. They're only so much. Chu Xiu watched this scene coldly and a nameless fire gathered in his heart point according to when it first came. The words of the black-robed soldier who led the way point after the southwest base was disbanded. About 1,500 survivors were attracted by the broadcast. But now, only a third of it remains. The 1,000 missing. Chu Xiu didn't have to think about it. He knew what happened to them. Deb. Sure enough. It is not my race. Its heart will be punished. Chu Xiu's tone became colder. But this time, he was no longer talking about humans and zombies. Chu, the leader of Chu. Everyone is here. A total of 512 people, 117 women, 320 men, 75 old, young, sick and disabled. Migrant workers who previously called on everyone to fight to the death with zombies. Being elected by everyone, he cautiously came to Chu Xiu to report. Don't worry, what's your name? Although Chu Xiu asked, but the message of this migrant worker has already appeared in his eyes name. Wang ERNIUS*X. Male loyalty : 74. Left square bracket talent. Iron stomach. Unawakened. Super strong digestive system. Can digest all objects swallowed in the stomach, such as metals, rocks, etc. Go back to the leader. My name is Wang Ernio. While Chu Xiu was observing, Wang Ernio also reported his name. Another unawakened one, and also activated loyalty points. Chu Xiu was a little surprised point unexpectedly. This seemingly honest migrant worker, like Professor Hay from Hushan Base, is also the second batch of awakened awakeners, and also awakened the loyalty value. Although it did not reach the 80 threshold for binding subordinates, it was considered relatively loyal point only. Wang Ernio's talent is a bit tasteless. The so-called iron stomach, to put it bluntly, is not a picky eater. You can digest anything you eat. Cough. Cough. Wang Ernio. Chu Xiu coughed lightly, and after eliminating the messy thoughts, he ordered, you bring some people and collect the useful materials in the park, especially precious metals like gold, platinum and the like. After the end point, money is a waste of paper, but these precious metals still have their uses like gold point. It has a very wide range of uses in the industrial field. Okay, chief, I'll lead someone to collect it. Go. After Wang Ernio left, Chu Xiu released a repulsive magnetic field and slowly flew into the air, looking for a while in the science and technology park point. In the end, it fell on a chip technology company. The lithography machine that Beizao mentioned should be here. Chu Xiu flew over, searched with magnetic induction point. Sure enough, in the factory area of this company, a large machine with a size comparable to a car was found. That's what it should be. Point induction by magnetic field. Chu Xiu can clearly see the internal structure of the machine. There are more than 100,000 parts alone. With the ability to manipulate the magnetic field, Chu Xiu wanted to try to analyze the machine. But looking at the complexity of the structure of this thing, immediately dismissed the idea. It's better to take it back and give Beizao a headache point in order to take this big guy out of the building completely. Chu Xiu landed on the ground point through the imperial soil. The upper part of the building was demolished directly point, then used the magnetic field To lift the machine out completely, do it all. Two helicopters flew slowly from a distance. One was driven by Leo Zhangtao, and the other was driven by a soldier under Zhang Haoping. Two planes in tandem. Slowly descend from the sky. Transport capacity is still too bad. So many people, it is estimated that they have to run several times. Just one lithography machine will fill the cabin of a transport plane. In order to ensure that there is no collision in the middle, Chu Xiu also manipulated the magnetic field and made some small changes to the helicopter's cabin structure. The problem of the lithography machine is solved, but the transportation of the more than 500 survivors became a problem. The two small and medium-sized transport helicopters had to run back and forth several times to take all these people away. Any of you can fly a plane to solve this problem. Chu Xiu rose into the air and shouted loudly. Soon. Two people stood up. An old man in his 50s and 60s and a girl in her 20s with short hair. Chief, I have driven a civil airliner for years. The old man's name was Hu Guangai, and he had been the captain of a civil aviation plane until he retired. Very well. What about you? Chu Xiu nodded with satisfaction. Then his eyes fell on the short-haired woman beside him. I'll fly fighter jets, chief, said the short-haired woman. But the voice was not very loud, and it seemed a little lack of confidence. My name is Zhaojin. I'm a fighter jet of China Southern Airlines trainee pilot. Zhaojin finally lowered his head. Because she has only completed the theoretical, of course, she can count the number of times she has flown the actual aircraft on one hand. A student. Just when Zhaojin thought that he would definitely be reprimanded by the leader, students are fine. Chu Xiu nodded. By the way, does any one of you know where the nearest airport is? Chapter 165. Chu Xiu, I have a special landing method. Dozens of minutes later, a mid-size Boeing 757 and a luxurious Gulfstream G650 private jet, one after another, they arrived at the sky above the Mount Boss. There is no place to land here. The pilot of the Boeing 757, Hu Guangai, in his 60s, shouted over the radio. Through the porthole. Below is a barren black mountain. All over the mountains and plains are black vines that have long since died. The only open space that can be found is a winding mountain road and an open space in front of the arsenal. But whether it's a mountain road or an open space, the area is too small. There were not enough straights for the 50+ meter long medium passenger plane to land. You circle first 5. See that clearing below? After we landed, you just hit it, and I'll pick you up below. In the Gulfstream G650 private jet, Chu Xiu half reclined on the luxurious seat and wrote lightly. In front of him. Sitting in the driver's seat is the pilot student Zhaojin. At this time, Zhaojin was so focused that he didn't care that his back was wet with sweat. The reason is simple. She has never flown such a big plane. Don't look at it. This is just a private jet carrying a dozen people. But the difficulty of driving is no less difficult than the trainer she drives. As a business jet, the Gulfstream 650 can reach an exaggerated speed of Mach 0.92, close to the speed of sound. The range is 130,000 kilometers. The top private jet in the pyramid. And its former owner, if nothing else, it should be the boss of a certain East Liuai whoring boss. You said, is the zombie we killed just now really Liuai whoring? In order to ease the tension in his heart, Zhaojin asked. The Gulfstream 650 and the Boeing 757 driven by Hu Guangai were both found at Wuxing Airport. Then when finding the Gulfstream 650, there is also a zombie whose face has been gnawed beyond recognition. Looking at the size, it should be him, and there are only a few people in China who can afford this plane. Chu Xiu stretched and said casually. Done. Get up and walk to the cab. No, why are you still reading the flight manual? Get down quickly. When he came to the cab, Chu Xiu found that Zhaojin was still flipping through the flight manual and was a little dissatisfied. You chatted with me for a long time. Is it to delay reading the manual? Boss, the space below is too small. I'm not sure. Jin looked helpless. The open space below is clearly reserved for helicopters. Although the area is not small, it is square and does not have a long enough runway. Didn't I say so. Just hit it and I'll catch it. Chu Xiu urged. Oh, okay. Seeing that the leader's tone was a little impatient, Zhao Jin could only point. Eyes closed. Point. The joystick jerked forward. Point also shut. Side down. The engine. Point hum. In an instant, the Gulfstream 650 rammed straight into the open space below like a missile. Point. Despite shutting down the engine. Point, but under the pull of gravity, the speed of the plane is still getting faster and faster. Drip altitude warning. 500 meters. Drip altitude warning. 300 meters. The plane's siren kept going off. Every time it rings, the height of hundreds of meters is lost. But Chu Xiu was not in a hurry. In such a vertically descending plane, he still stands, as if unaffected. Point. And Zhao Jin on the side. Point, but it has been firmly pressed on the seat by inertia. Boss, it's about to hit. Looking at the ground getting closer, Zhao Jin panicked and shouted, "No, hurries, at this distance, the repulsive magnetic field doesn't work." Chu Xiu said. Point, when the height was less than 100 meters, he closed his eyes calmly. Point hum. An invisible magnetic field spread out. Point a repulsive magnetic field is formed layer by layer, wrapping the falling aircraft layer by layer. For a moment, the rapidly falling Gulfstream 650 suddenly seemed to have entered a swamp. The falling speed suddenly slowed down, and the fuselage has not suffered any damage. Zhao Jin originally closed his eyes and waited to die, but when he opened his eyes, he found that the plane suddenly stopped in midair, only 10 meters from the ground. This is maglev. Zhao Jin was shocked to find that in the cabin, some metal objects slowly floated up. It's like going into space, more or less. Chu Xiu didn't explain, but with a thought, the plane began to change its attitude. The dive from the head down slowly turned horizontal and then slowly landed on the ground. Point. Kai. The hatches open. Chu Xiu walked down the stairs, then looked up at 757 hovering in the air, and in the air Hu Guangai, who had been circling the plane, was stunned. Point. He has been flying for years. It can be said that what kind of landing method he has seen and even tried. Point. 4 flowers, but this time, Hu Guangai, why are you still standing still? It was not until Chu Xiu's voice came from the radio that the elderly Hu Guangai reacted. Everyone got back to their seats and fastened their seat belts. After shouting a sentence on the radio. Point. Hu Guangai waited another 2 seconds before pushing the joystick to turn off the engine. Point. The same screen appears again. Point. Only this time, Chu Xiu people were not in the plane. Point. Instead, he stretched out his hand and caught a medium-sized passenger plane that was more than 50 meters long. Slowly put it on the ground. Boss, your appearance is too shocking, right? Zhang Haoping and the others had been waiting outside the arsenal for a long time when they got the news. So I observed Chu Xiu's landing method all the way. After both planes stopped, he immediately brought someone over. There are 0 people, all young and middle-aged. Look at the arrangement. Chu Xiu looked at Zhang Haoping, who was approaching, and said in a deep voice. Point. In this Boeing 757, all are young adults, a total of 0 people, of which 50 are women. Point. The remaining old and weak women and children, and some young women. Point. All were transported to the Hushan base by Lao Zhangtao and the others by helicopter. By the way, this plane can't fly anyway, so just dismantle it. The above materials are more or less useful. Chu Xiu pointed to the Boeing plane and said, "No problem, Chief." Zhang Haoping nodded. He was really thinking about what to do with the plane just now. Point. After all, such a big plane, leaving it alone, is indeed a bit of a hindrance. Also, you should contact Lao Zhangtao and your subordinate. Let's see if we can train a group of helicopter pilots. It doesn't require much, as long as it can transport materials. Chu Xiu thought for a while and added, "Okay, Zhang." Haoping nodded again. Point. The other side. Point. The survivors in the Boeing plane had begun to disembark in sequence, under the command of the workers of the arsenal, and one after another of mechanical spiders, they walked to the factory in an orderly manner. Old Zhang, I'll leave it to you here. Now that the manpower is sufficient, you can go back and open a few more production lines of mechanical spiders to ensure the output. Chu Xiu ordered. Point. Done. Point. Back to the Gulfstream 650 that Zhao Jin drove. Point. In the same way, the plane was lifted into the air. Start the engine. Shan. The 166th chapter is like a god, where the world has been turned upside down. Shortly after the Gulf Stream 650 driven by Xiaojin came to Yijiang Garden Point landing, is the old waypoint just parked on the street outside the community point after the plane stopped. Chu Xiu got off the plane, looked at the open space outside the community, and became thoughtful. Identification is complete. Point outside the community. Two mechanical spiders discovered that the person who got off the plane was Chu Xiu. Point put away your weapon immediately. Point back to standby. Is this a robot? Xiao Jin stepped off the plane, and his attention immediately fell on the fully armed mechanical spider. After a brief surprise, Point only then did she notice the Yijiang Garden not far away. Boss, is this where you live? Chu Xiu waved his hand and looked outside the community. Ask you something, Xiaojin. Suddenly, Chu Xiu's eyes fell on Xiaojin and said, do you know the runway specifications of the military airport 580? Xiaojin was taken aback by the question and quickly searched his mind for the knowledge he had learned. Point then said, boss, if you mean runway length and width, I do know something. Generally speaking, military airfields, according to different needs, are divided into 4 levels. Among them, the smallest level 3 airport runway is generally 1.2 km to 1.6 km in length, mainly for trainers and small transport aircraft to take off and land. The largest size is the super airport runway. The length is generally between 3.2 km and 4.5 km. As for the width, regardless of the level of police, the runway width is uniform at 60 meters. Xiaojin said quickly, based on the knowledge in his memory. 60 meters, right? Chu Xiu looked outside the community for a while and then asked, how long is the runway needed for medium and large passenger planes, such as Boeing 747s or medium transport planes? For safety reasons, it may take 2.5 kilometers. But if it's just a simple takeoff and landing, the takeoff and landing distance of 2 kilometers should be enough. Xiaojin was a little confused and didn't understand why the leader asked this suddenly. Point, but she answered truthfully, that's 2,000 meters in length, right? Chu Xiu finished. Point, take off your shoes and step barefoot on the icy asphalt street. At the same time, inside the villa, little Taofu, who was listening quietly to Anna's story of her adventures, suddenly he felt something. My heart beat faster. Brother is back. I heard his shaking. Taofu shouted excitedly. Where? Annie looked around suspiciously and found nothing outside. Tao Fu's voice just fell. Point, boom. The earth shook violently suddenly. For a moment, it's as if the sky is falling apart. The expensive light bulbs on the ceiling have been shaking left and right, and the door frame not far away is creaking. Water in the pool overflowing. The building shook more violently, and the glass on some doors and windows was even deformed and broken during extrusion. Scattered glass fragments fell to the ground, and then jumping up and down in the shaking of the earth. What happened? In the living room, Li Qiuyu and Qin Miayu, who had just returned from collecting supplies, looked at each other. Point, then the two responded, let's go outside first, Dove, and get out. I'm going to call Yin Yi. The two girls acted immediately. Point, soon. Point, all the women in the villa went outside. Point, even Beizaro, who was dismantling the lithography machine in villa number 9, was no exception. Why do you need to do this? It's not enough to build a vertical takeoff and landing transport aircraft. Different from others, Beizaro seemed to know what happened and said in a flat tone, Beizaro, do you know what's going on? Yen Yi asked. Point, at this time, when she woke up, her fever had subsided. It was made by Chu Xiu. You'll know when you go out and take a look. Beizaro said calmly. Point, the children looked at each other and walked out of the community one after another. Point, soon. Point, several people came to the gate of the community. Point, as the heavy metal door was opened. Finally, the girls saw the scene outside. Point, it was an earth-shattering sight. Notice, this is not a description, but it really turned upside down. Thousands of tons of soil and rocks, like waves, tumbling on the surface. surging forward, wherever, whether it is a road or a building, it will be engulfed in an instant. Trapped underground point and street lights, and abandoned cars on the street point, it will be pulled into the air by an invisible force, automatically decomposed, and then gathered into piles of metal blocks according to different categories, falling back to the ground where the dirt tumbled point. But before that, this piece of ground was paved with rocks rising from the ground into an extremely flat rock runway. The width is a constant 60 meters, although the material is rock. The flatness is comparable to polished marble, even smoother than the original asphalt road. Rumbling. During this process, the deafening roar did not stop for a moment. The sight before us is destruction. Also remodeling. Streets and buildings were demolished. Instead, it's a flat road. And to accomplish all this, just the back of a man walking slowly forward, in front of this earth-shattering scene. This back figure seemed incomparably small, but it was impossible to ignore. All the women were stunned. The sight in front of them was beyond their comprehension at this time. Chu Xiu, like a god alive. Wherever it goes, the earth is transformed. Is this a power that humans can have? Yen Yi stared blankly at this scene. Now, she finally has a vague understanding of Chu Xiu's power. Everyone was shocked by the scene in front of them. Even the blind little Teofu is no exception. Okay, what a strong vibration. It turns out that brother Chu Xiu is the most powerful person with the ability to control the soil. Teofu muttered to herself. Although her eyes can't see. But in fact, she was the one who felt Chu Xiu's power the most among the people present. 4.1 Teofu's little feet are stepping on the ground. She could clearly feel the terrifying spiritual power contained in the tumbling soil. Boom. The earth-shaking scene lasted for a few minutes. It seems that accomplishing all this is not a small burden for Chu Xiu at last. When this rock runway, 60 meters wide and 2,000 meters long, was completed, Chu Xiu's forehead was covered with sweat. The long-lost feeling of exhaustion of mental power came back again. Utilizing the two abilities to the extreme at the same time is a bit unbearable. Chu Xiu wiped the sweat from his forehead and muttered to himself, control the dirt to open the road, control the rock to pave the road, and at the same time, use the magnetic field to collect the metal along the way so as not to be drawn into the ground and cause waste. This series of operations down. Even today's Chu Xiu, his mental strength can't bear it, and he is almost at a loss. Chapter 167. You leveled the city, and the vision is wider. Oh my god. Although the children watched Chu Xiu shape the runway little by little. But when they really set foot on this solid and flat rock, the girls were still a little dazed. This all seems unreal. In their minds, they still remember the scene outside the community. The asphalt road with two turns, street signs, street lights, green belts, and buildings on both sides of the road. But now, everything is gone. A rock runway 60 meters wide and 2,000 meters long replaced everything along the way. As a result, as soon as you come out of the gate of the community, it is a very spacious runway. However, the end of the runway is not sealed. It is still connected to the original road. That is, it doesn't affect driving out. This should be enough for most aircraft to take off and land. Chu Xiu vacated his body, flew from the end of the runway, and flew back to the Gulfstream 650 parked at the gate of the community. Zaojin standing next to the Gulfstream 650. His face was already dull. I was so shocked that I couldn't even speak. You will be my full-time driver in the future. When you have a fighter or a fighter, you turn into a fighter. Chu Xiu landed next to Zaojin and commanded. Although he can fly by himself, the flight speed obviously cannot reach Mach 0.92 of the Gulfstream 650. Besides, people get tired. A short distance is fine. If it is long distance flight and the vehicle is not used, it has to fly by itself. Isn't that stupid? Okay, no problem, Chief. Zaojin, who was deeply shocked, nodded immediately and agreed without any hesitation. While Chu Xiu was talking to Zaojin, Li Qiuyu and the others also came over. My god, you've worked so hard just to park this plane. Yen Yi walked around the Gulfstream 650. Looking at her state, it seems that she has not recovered from the shock. More or less, anyway, the land outside is empty and empty. Chu Xiu looked back at his sons and daughters and asked with a little show off, how about it? Is the field of vision much wider now? Li Qiuai and Annie nodded again and again. His eyes were full of admiration for Chu Xiu. Although Xiao Teofu could not see, the expression on her face was also full of admiration. Only Yin Yi. Even though he was already shocked, he still said stubbornly, that's if you flatten the entire H city, the field of vision is wider. 5 yen. Yi's voice just fell on the small head. He was hit with a chestnut. Ow. Yen Yi cried out in pain. Cover your head quickly, you be **ch. If you can't speak, talk less. Chu Xiu was not in a good mood. After speaking, he briefly explained, and after handing Zhao Jin over to Li Qiuai, he walked towards the community. Just got to the gate. He bumped into Beizao, who was expressionless. Seeing Beizao, Chu Xiu remembered the mental shield. Looking a little embarrassed. Well, Beizao, the mental shielding device you mentioned last time, shouldn't have been built yet? Chu Xiu asked tentatively. As everyone knows, Beizao has worked continuously for more than 3 hours in order to design this device. Limited by materials, there is no breakthrough yet. Beizao said calmly. Done. She looked up at Chu Xiu and asked, what's wrong? It's nothing. I just think you can stop building that thing. Chu Xiu replied. I don't know if it was an illusion, but Beizao's eyelids seemed to twitch when he heard this sentence. There seems to be some anger, but look carefully. She was still the same dull look. Okay, I get it. Beizao nodded, then set his eyes on the runway outside. Actually, I can help you design a vertical takeoff and landing transport aircraft. Beizao said. The meaning is very simple. That is, you don't need to spend a lot of time to get a runway out. But this time, Chu Xiu denied Beizao's statement. Far. Can't quench near thirst. Airplanes can't be built in a day or two, but runways can. 5. Chu Xiu explained. For him, building a runway is much simpler than building an airplane. I'm sorry, I was thinking less obviously. Beizao is not the kind of woman who makes trouble without reason. After realizing it was her own incompetence, she immediately apologized to Chu Xiu. Apologies. She changed the subject to the real business. The design of the liquid metal robot has been completed, and now it is waiting for you to make it. Do you have time now? Beizao asked. So fast? Chu Xiu was stunned for a moment. This time, on the way to Wax City, I successfully accumulated enough experience of 100,000. Chu Xiu had planned to come back as soon as possible. Raise one of these two abilities to LV5. But I didn't expect it to be just one day. Beizao has already completed the design of the liquid metal robot. There's really nothing to design for. 9. The skeleton of a liquid metal robot is the same as a conventional robot. The difference is that programming is a little more complicated. All the actions of the liquid metal robot depend on the programmed control of the current direction of the internal electrodes, driving the electromagnetic field, and accurately controlling the appearance characteristics and motion state of the liquid metal. The principle is similar to those metals under your control. Beizao said a lot. Chu Xiu quickly waved his hand. Alright. No need to explain the principle, I will make it right away. After Chu Xiu heard this, he gave up his plan to upgrade his skills anyway. The experience is there, and it will not disappear. Let's go. The two walked to the laboratory. At the same time, outside the Hushan base that has become a Hushan farm. A fully armed mechanical spider patrols back and forth. Once zombies and beasts are found, they will attack immediately. The original base was high on the wall. The man of steel, whose body was reshaped by Chu Xiu with liquid metal, was like an iron tower, standing on a high place, scanning the surroundings condescendingly. To prevent all possible dangers from happening. Beside it. The skinny monkey was not dead, but was covered in bandages and his right leg was also amputated. Can only walk with crutches. Brother. Gang, when you contact the leader, can you help me ask? Let's see if you can get me a mechanical leg too. Leaning on crutches, the thin monkey leaned in front of the steel man. 580 questions in a low voice. But the answer to him was silence. The steel man is like an iron tower, standing motionless on the high wall. Eyes look into the distance. Send someone over there to take a look. Suddenly, the steel man pointed to a dirt slope in the distance and instructed point just now. There was a flash of light there. Point backside of soil slope. Point an extremely thin woman was using a telescope to observe the situation at the Hushan base. Point in the telescope. Point the elderly Professor Hay is organizing the elderly and women to reclaim land in the open space outside the prison. Point the only difference from the usual. Next to Professor Hay, there was a little boy. Point it is the son of the singer. Son, look good. The plow must be deep enough. Turn the soil over completely so that you can, as a lonely old man. Professor Hay likes the little boy arranged by Chu Xiu very much. Point while working, talk to him every now and then. I see, Grandma Hay. Point the boy nodded. Point at this moment, he seemed to sense something. Point suddenly he turned his head to look at the dirt slope in the distance. Point the other side. Point the singer has put away the telescope. Point hiding back to the back of the soil slope, the zombie-like face revealed a smile. Xiao, you're alright. Mom can rest assured. The singer finished. Point pulled out the map from his pocket. Point with a red pen. A city on the map is marked Shanghai X Market. Xiao, you have to be obedient. Mom is going to help the leader now. This chapter contains pictures. Click the illustration button in the lower right corner of the screen to view the pictures. Chapter 168. The first liquid metal robot. Kara. In the laboratory. Point a trail of silver liquid metal, like a trickle, flows in the air. It slowly gathered into Chu Xiu's hands, then slipped from the occasion of Chu Xiu. Point drop by drop, it fell on a slightly slender metal frame. The moment it dripped onto the skeleton, these silver liquid metals are like life, slowly wriggling. A trickle of metal wires spread along the skeleton, gradually build a perfect human silhouette. Curves are elegant. This perfection is not something any human being can possess. It is a kind of perfection that belongs only to man-made machines. Perfection without a single flaw. Point gradually. Point the silhouette of the human figure became clearer in the end. A humanoid machine with perfect curves appeared in the eyes of Chu Xiu and Bei Xiao. Point, except the color is silver. It's almost a perfect female figure. Okay, it can be activated. Chu Xiu clapped the dust that didn't exist on his hands so far. The robot has actually been made, and even the program has been written. Point the only thing to do is to activate. Point unlike ordinary robots, due to the characteristics of liquid metal, if you want to maintain a certain fixed shape, you must have program control. Point therefore. Point this liquid metal robot. Point in fact, when the skeleton is manufactured, the program writing has been completed, and the installation of graphene batteries. Before activation, what are you going to call it? Bei Xiao walked over. It was the first time that she asked a question that, in Chu Xiu's view, she would find meaningless. Kara, what's the name like? Chu Xiu thought about it for a long time, then looked at the perfect figure lying on the manufacturing cabin, and finally said. Bei Xiao was silent for a moment, then slowly said, I asked about the model of the machine. Here. This. Chu Xiu was speechless. However, he quickly thought of the model. The model is called R01. R is the abbreviation of Almighty, which is the all-round robot 01. As for the name, it's still called Kara. Chu Xiu said again. Good. Bei Xiao nodded, and then made some operations on the control screen of the dust-free manufacturing cabin. Point finally pressed the activation button. Point hum activate for a moment. Chu Xiu felt that in the manufacturing cabin, a large amount of tiny electric current suddenly appeared in the body of the silver figure. Point just like bioelectricity in living things. Point is programmed to precisely control the direction of electrode current flow. Point at the same time, a weak electromagnetic field was also generated in the body of the silver figure, similar to the biomagnetic field sensed by Chu Xiu. Point the moment the magnetic field appears, the silver figure in the manufacturing cabin also lived over. The silver eye suddenly opened. Inside is a pair of silver eyeballs that are similar in structure to the human eye. R01. All-rounder robot, Kara, at your service. Kara stood up slowly, looked at Chu Xiu, and slowly walked out of the manufacturing cabin. Point the silver figure was completely flawless, unreservedly displayed in front of Chu Xiu. Point like other robots in Kara's program, Chu Xiu is also set as the highest authority. Point, so she will be the first time after activation. Point come to Chu Xiu. Can she change her body color? Chu Xiu looked at Kara, and then asked Bei Xiao. Can. Point Bei Xiao nodded point here. Kara heard Chu Xiu's question and asked, Master, what color do you want Kara to be? Chu Xiu also didn't know where Xiao found the sound template. Anyway, Kara's voice, very pleasant. Not at all the rigid tone of a robot. Talk like a real person. HMM. Just the skin color of an ordinary human. Similar to her. Chu Xiu pointed at Xiao and said, okay, Kara. Glanced at Xiao. In the next second, the liquid metal on her body seemed to be alive, and the outermost layer was quickly flipping. Just for a moment. Her complexion changed from silver with metallic texture to incomparably fair. You can even see a trace of blood through the skin. Just like the real thing. Cough. Cough. Chu Xiu coughed lightly and looked away. Simultaneously. Well, in addition to skin color, you also changed your clothes. The voice just fell. The liquid metal on Kara's body flipped again. Soon. A white garment appeared on her body. The shape is a bit similar to Xiao's research uniform, but it has been changed a bit. Does she have an idea of her own? Chu Xiu noticed this and thought it was an illusion. He quickly turned his questioning eyes to Xiao. Who? Ever thought that? Xiao nodded. I redesigned the processing unit for her by imitating the chip structure of the Steel Man. It gave her a certain self-learning ability. Xiao said simply. After hearing this, Chu Xiu couldn't help but question. Let the robot have the ability to learn independently. Aren't you afraid of creating Skynet? What is Skynet, Bay? Xiao paused slightly. Apparently she hadn't seen that classic movie. You worried about the machine getting out of control, but Xiao still understood what Chu Xiu meant. So I asked a question. Did you forget you're a magnetic field manipulator? The person in the world who should not be afraid of the machine going out of control should be you. Hearing what Xiao said, Chu Xiu also reacted, and a trace of embarrassment flashed in his eyes. He quickly changed the subject. Then, what? I'll take Carla to do the experimental test. Done. Chu Xiu left the laboratory with Kara. Before leaving, he seemed to think of something and suddenly threw an orange potion on Xiao's laboratory table. Leak irons. The spoils of war this time. Those sand sculpture foreigners should be using this thing to turn people into zombies and still keep their senses. See if it helps. Drop a word. Chu Xiu's figure disappeared completely. In the laboratory. Xiao looked at Chu Xiu who fled in a hurry. The corners of his eyes rose slightly and a smile appeared. But at this time Chu Xiu had already left and did not notice this rare scene. Until Chu Xiu's figure completely disappeared. Xiao turned his head. But when she saw the designed sketches of the mental shielding device on the table, the smile in the corner of his eyes disappeared immediately. I won't make things for you in the future, Xiao said calmly. It seems to have returned to the indifference of the past. The picture is Kara. Asterisk caret caret asterisk. This chapter contains pictures. Click the illustration button in the lower right corner of the screen to view the pictures. Chapter 169 Kara's fighting power. The beast tide is coming. The other side. Chu Xiu, who left the laboratory in a hurry, didn't know what scene he missed. Him at this time. He was walking towards the villa with Kara, who was dressed in white. Chu Xiu, who is she? As soon as they entered the villa, Li Qiuyu and others asked questions, not out of jealousy or anything. It's just that they are a little strange where Kara came from. Obviously, Chu Xiu brought back only one woman, Zhao Jin. Except for her there was no one in the plane. And when Chu Xiu returned to the community, he stayed in Xiao's laboratory and never went anywhere. At this point, several women present were clear, so they were very curious. Where did Chu Xiu find such a beautiful woman? Hey, wait a minute, why do I think she looks a bit like Xiao? At this moment, Yen Yi suddenly found the point, but the voice just fell. She found out that it was wrong. No, it's a bit like me too. It's still like the autumn moon. Yen Yi was stunned. Kara, who followed Chu Xiu, was like a collection of them. Bringing together the advantages of their appearance. At first glance, it is very beautiful, but if you look closely, there is an illusory sense of unreality. As if not naturally formed. She's not real. Li Qiuyu found the problem. As the lightning controller, she can sense the weak current in Kara's body. Her Name is Kara. It's the first liquid metal 580 robot made by me and Beizio Chu Xiu introduced. Robot. The girls were surprised. Yin Yi seemed to have thought of something, so she walked over and touched it. You call this a robot? After touching it, Yin Yi's expression was a little weird. At this time, Kara's self-consciousness seemed to understand the situation. Kara is indeed a robot. Kara said. The liquid metal on the body began to deform. The slender arm turned into a blade, then into a giant axe. And in the process, her arm color has also changed to silver. It's really a robot, isn't this the Terminator? The scene in front of them made the children have to believe that the Kara in front of them was really a machine. A liquid metal robot. Yee. You were the first to disbelieve, right? Chu Xiu looked at Yin Yi. I do not have. Yin Yi flatly denied it. Just as he was about to run away, he was caught by Chu Xiu. Then, it's up to you to fight her. Test Kara's combat effectiveness. The corners of Chu Xiu's mouth rose slightly and said, stop it. 9. I fight her. It's not good if she gets hurt. Yin Yi smiled embarrassingly and backed away. It's alright. Kara is self-healing. Chu Xiu said lightly. After Yin Yi heard this, her eyes blinked twice. Brother, I'm saying I'm hurt. Okay. Also, I have no self-healing ability. You can wear an inner suit. Chu Xiu seemed to see Yin Yi's thoughts and added a sentence. It's alright, Kara, right? Look how I hammer you. Yin Yi thought Kara was also the kind of robot without self-awareness, so let go of the harsh words. Owner. Kara turned to look at Chu Xiu. You are like them. Call me Chief. Chu Xiu first corrected Kara's name and then said, you can do your best without hurting your life. The reason why Chu Xiu dared to let Kara go out. The main reason is that he can stop it at any time. Go outside and fight. Soon. Several girls came outside. The flat runway of the airport has become the most perfect battlefield. And don't worry about what damage a battle will do to the runway. Not to mention Chu Xiu. Little Tofu can repair these damages at any time. Do not forget. Her earth defense ability has also risen to LV4, same level as Chu Xiu. It's just that her mental strength is far inferior to that of Chu Xiu, and she was crushed several times. I'm ready. At this time, Yin Yi had already put on the nano suit. He was gearing up, ready to show off his skills, and had a long face in front of Chu Xiu. And Kara on the side. They were quietly waiting for Chu Xiu's order. Kara, let's get started. Chu Xiu's voice just fell. The last second, Kara, who was still standing in a gentle manner, suddenly rioted. A mechanical skeleton wrapped in liquid metal. Not really a skeleton. It is a machine with a transmission mechanism and a hydraulic device. Kara moved. The rock runway beneath his feet cracked in an instant. Her figure, like a silver lightning, slammed into Yin Yi. Boom. With the roar of a drum, Yin Yi was directly knocked out. Fortunately, with the protection of the nano suit, she did not suffer substantial damage. A sneak attack, right? Yin Yi shouted, fell to the ground and rolled, and immediately, Deb stood up. Then, he took out his double mace from behind and charged towards Kara. Danger detected. Seeing the double mace in Yin Yi's hands, Kara immediately took countermeasures. The liquid metal immediately expanded outward, forms layers of hollow honeycomb armor. Her figure also instantly became burly at the same time. Kara's hands quickly extended, turning into two extremely sharp blades. Next second. The two girls collided. The double mace and the sharp edge are intertwined. In just a few seconds, several confrontations occurred. Finally, Yin Yi's strength prevailed. Boom. With a loud bang. Yin Yi's mace swung hard and successfully knocked Kara flying out. But Yin Yi herself was hit by Kara's sharp blade. Took a step back. Here. Kara, who fell to the ground, quickly stood up. The honeycomb-like armor on her body was shattered several layers, but the next second, these shattered armors softened into liquid metal and returned to their original appearance. How else can it be? Yin Yi looked stupid. In the fight just now, she was also slashed several times by Kara's sharp blade. The defense mode of the nanosuit was forced to activate. Although most of the attacks were blocked, the impact force hit Yin Yi through the nanosuit. Yin Yi doesn't have to look now. Everyone knows that he must be blue and purple. Look at Kara. After the honeycomb shaped armor on the body was restored to liquid metal, it rushed over again, as if nothing had happened. How's this going? Yin Yi had no choice but to combine the two trump cards into one, forming a long trump card. This increases the attack distance. Try to reduce the number of times you get hit. No way. Kara is a liquid metal robot. 1. It won't hurt. 2. No matter how much damage she suffers, she will recover quickly. But Yin Yi is not a robot. The attacks she received were real. The battle went on for a while. The situation was completely reversed. Yin Yi went from attacking at the beginning to leveling, and finally to passive defense. At this time, Changmi could only be busy blocking Kara's attack. There was no time left to attack. All right. Chu Xiu knew that the outcome was decided. Done. Just wanted to control the magnetic field to control Kara, but Kara stopped by herself. The hive-like armor and blades quickly disappeared. It changed back to its original harmless appearance. Performed well. Chu Xiu was very satisfied with Kara's fighting performance. Then his eyes fell on Yin Yi. Didn't you notice that Kara was protecting the metal skeleton inside her? That's her weakness. You attacked the liquid metal on her body, but it was all in vain. Chu Xiu was not angry, but just pointed out the mistakes Yin Yi made in the battle. Actually, I found it. Yin Yi flicked off the mask of the nanosuit and walked over with pursed lips. But all I did was blunt force. There is no way to get around her liquid metal and attack the skeleton inside. Yin Yi said helplessly. In fact, during the battle, she had already discovered the problem. But helpless. The long mace is a blunt weapon. There is no way to pierce the liquid metal and attack Kara's internal skeleton. I told you about weapons last time. Chu Xiu stopped in the middle of his words. Look up at the sky. What's wrong? Yin Yi looked over suspiciously. But only saw a dark cloud drifting over in the distance. Isn't it just a dark cloud? What's wrong with you? Yin Yi asked. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 170. Hungry Flying Ants. The women are in strife. No, that's not a dark cloud. Chu Xiu's face was solemn, and the dark clouds in the distance were slowly drifting over. But if you look closely, you will find that this dark cloud will be separated from time to time in the process of fluttering. Float to the ground. After a while it will rise from the ground again. Reunited with the dark cloud. Is it a flying beast? Li Qiu guessed. Quick, gather fuel and set fires around the neighborhood. 5. Chu Xiu observed for a while. Seeing that the dark cloud was coming in the direction of Yijiang Garden, he hurriedly said, "The others go back quickly, close the doors and windows, and don't come out, no matter what happens." The voice fell. Children also realized the seriousness of the problem. Immediately started action. Yin Yi couldn't take care of the blue and purple pain on her body. Together with Kara, they put the surrounding wood, clothing, even abandoned cars, and other combustibles around the periphery of the community for a week. The others were not idle, and joined the arson army one after another. Several women ran back to the community, each carried a barrel of gasoline, and dumped it around the periphery of the community. Soon all combustibles were doused with gasoline. Then, a flash of lightning popped out of Li Qiu's fingertips, igniting the gasoline. Boom. The flames soared several meters high. At the same time, a chain reaction was caused, and the flames quickly circled the community, and ignited a circle. In just a moment, Yijiang Garden was surrounded. At the same time. The dark cloud has also floated over. Until now. Everyone can see clearly that it is not a dark cloud at all, but a dense number of flying insects. It looks a bit like flying ants in nature, but the body is much bigger. Each is the size of a palm. Scary amount. When we get together, we can cover the sky. Looking at it from a distance, it is completely a picture of a dark cloud. During the move. Once the swarm finds an organism. Notice, organisms not life, whether it is humans, zombies, or other beasts. As long as it is discovered, the dark cloud will separate apart, like locusts passing through, eating all the organic creatures on the ground. Chu Xiu saw with his own eyes a zombie, the bloated one in the distance point surrounded by flying ants. In just a moment, the swollen one exploded, killing a bunch of flying ants, but the next second, more flying ants will come point the corpse of the swollen person, and even the corpses of other flying ants that died around were eaten up. Not even bone residue is left. Everyone hurry back, stay in the building, don't show your face. Seeing that the swarm is about to approach, Chu Xiu shouted, quickly point at the same time point as the distance approached. Chu Xiu also scanned the information of the swarm in his eyes. Hungry flying ants, F-class ferocious beast, palm-sized insects, shaped like flying ants, are extremely numerous and will attack all creatures in sight. Fear of fire. Threat level increases with scale. Sure enough, it's the hungry flying ants. Chu Xiu looked at the information from the hungry flying ants while taking the girls back to the villa point almost at the moment when several people returned to the villa and closed the doors and windows. The sky is suddenly dark. The sound of countless wings flapping is intertwined. The sound was harsh. Very annoying. However, Chu Xiu's previous preparations worked. The flames burning on the periphery of the community were like a barrier, causing most of the flying ants to change their flight paths. But there are still a small number of flying ants firmly flew towards Yijiang Garden. They climbed to heights, bypassed the burning flames, and swooped into the cell point and this small part point. There are still too many to count. Bang 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 point. Almost at the same time, when the flying ants attacked, the sound of the machine guns of the mechanical spiders came from outside point. But in front of endless hungry flying ants, several machine guns, undoubtedly a drop in the bucket point soon. Several mechanical spiders were surrounded by densely packed hungry flying ants, but it didn't take long. These palm-sized flying insects left the mechanical spider just like their names. Hunger floaters are always hungry. They devour all living creatures or corpses indefinitely. But for what can't be eaten. For example, metal, hungry ants will avoid it. It's a pity that there is no flame ability, otherwise this wave is simply a paradise for brushing experience. Through magnetic field induction, Chu Xiu felt the overwhelming flood of hungry flying ants. Secretly gritted his teeth. He is the only one who can do something similar to fire. It is to use magnetic field control to form an ultra-high temperature electric heating furnace around it. 4 flowers, but the release range of the electric furnace is too short. Only less than 100 meters. These flying ants cannot be killed efficiently. What's more, his spiritual power has not recovered yet. He used too much energy to build the airport runway just now. Leading to the present mental power. Only less than 1/4 of the heyday. Electric furnaces cannot be maintained for long periods of time. As for other abilities in terms of kill range, U2 is definitely the strongest. But the limitation of U2 is also obvious. That is, it can only attack ground targets, and it is difficult to attack air units. Neither does Imperial Land. Then there's only one ability left. System. Upgrade the lightning control. Chu Xiu said solemnly. When he returned from Wax City, his experience points had already exceeded 100,000. It's just that something happened in the middle that delayed the upgrade. 0. But it's better to upgrade now. Because when the skills are upgraded, a large amount of mental power will be recovered, which just makes up for the current lack of mental power. Ding. Consumes 100,000 experience. Raiden controllers raised to LV5, accompanied by a system beep. A huge energy that was similar to the one controlled by the upgraded magnetic field suddenly poured into the body. However, Chu Xiu has experienced such energy infusion once. So there was no severe pain like last time. The speed of receiving energy is also much faster. Even. Neither caused too much energy spillage. So that Yin Yi and others next to him didn't even know that Chu Xiu was getting stronger. The only thing that notices the difference. It's Li Qiuyu. Because she found that the lightning energy in her body seemed to be attracted by something. It is being released uncontrollably. Zizzy lightning flashes emerged from Li Qiuyu and landed on Chu Xiu. At first glance. It was as if Li Qiuyu was attacking Chu Xiu. Qiuyu, what are you doing? Yen Yi was stunned for a moment, and when she reacted, she was furious. Without further ado, he took out his mace and confronted Lee Qiu. The other girls also reacted, and Annie patted Jenny next to her. The striped winged tiger curled up in the living room of the villa immediately stood up, revealing a fierce look, as if ready for battle. Teofu stomped her foot even more. Stone thorns rose from the floor, sharp tips, facing Lee Qiu. For a moment, the atmosphere inside the villa is tense. The 171st chapter is like the devil descending from the sky. Lee Qiu was found after attacking Chu Xiu. The girls in the villa, without any hesitation, immediately pointed their finger at Lee Qiu. The battle is close. Even Chen Miyu, an ordinary person, was no exception. She took out a pistol and aimed at Lee Qiu. I didn't do it. I really didn't do anything. Lee Qiu was about to cry. Anxious eyes red. How could I possibly attack Chu Xiu? Yee. These lightnings popped out by themselves. I can't control them. There's a force vying for control with me. I can't take it. Lee Qiu kept explaining to everyone. Claims that the lightning energy in his body is released uncontrollably. Here this Yin Yi also calmed down. In fact, she was just too anxious just now and was suddenly carried away by the anger of 580s. Think about it now. Lee Qiu is indeed unlikely to attack Chu Xiu. And Chu Xiu doesn't look like he's been attacked. Realize this. The tension in the villa eased a little. At this time, a voice rang out. What are you doing? The upgraded Chu Xiu. Just opened my eyes. I found this scene of swords drawn, and the whole person was stunned. Chu Xiu, are you alright? Lee Qiu's eyes were slightly red. What can I do? It's just a few of you. Is that just about in fighting, or what? In Chu Xiu's doubts, there was a trace of anger. Nothing. Just a little misunderstanding. Lee Qiu pursed her lips and shook her head. She doesn't blame anyone. Because Lee Qiu is very clear. Think about it in a different position. If she saw this scene, her reaction would be more intense than others. It was my fault. I thought Qiu attacked you. I'm sorry, Qiu. I misunderstood you. Yin Yi was also straight-minded and realized that she was wrong and immediately apologized to Lee Qiu. Then Annie, Taofu, and even Chen Miyu apologized one after another. What's the mess? Who attacked whom? This scene left Chu Xiu, who had just completed the upgrade, bewildered. What is Lee Qiu attacking himself? How can that be possible? Chu Xiu knew the loyalty of several women present. It's a little bit possible to say that they self-harmed, and as for attacking themselves, Chu Xiu didn't believe it at all. What? Was wondering. Chu Xiu suddenly noticed something strange. Qiu, why don't you have any energy in your body? Chu Xiu found that Lee Qiu did not have any lightning energy in her body. It's like being squeezed dry by something. Was evacuated. Not even a tiny bit is left. What do you say? If Lee Qiu didn't understand what happened at this time, she would be stupid. That scene just now, it was clear that Chu Xiu was absorbing his own lightning energy. When the other women heard Chu Xiu's words, they gradually reacted. Thanks, we thought you were attacked by Qiu. It turns out that you are absorbing the energy in Qiu's body. Yen Yi looked annoyed and sighed that she was too stupid to blame Qiu. I absorbed Lee Qiu's energy through the performance of several women. Chu Xiu also understood what happened just now, but now is not the time to delve into that. Outside the villa. Hunger floaters that cover the sky are still raging. Lightning control has also been upgraded, and now I don't go out to harvest a wave of experience. It's simply a waste of money. Forget it, you'll be fine. In order to quickly go out to harvest experience, Chu Xiu was going to fool this matter. Besides, once you've sucked it all in, you can't give back the energy. And Chu Xiu doesn't know what to do. You take care of Qiu, let her rest for a while and recover. I am going out. After Chu Xiu finished speaking, he was ready to walk outside the villa. There are flying ants outside. What are you doing out? And didn't you just say that your mental power is depleted? Seeing that Chu Xiu wanted to leave, Yen Yi quickly interrupted. That was just now. It's different now. Chu Xiu didn't explain much point, but the girls looked at Li Qiu, who was depleted in mental strength, and at Chu Xiu, who was now full of energy, and suddenly thought they understood something. It must be Chu Xiu who absorbed Li Qiu's spiritual power. Even Li Qiu thought so. Chu Xiu, in the future, as long as you lack mental strength, you will suck my I'm fine. Li Qiu even said it very intimately. What's the mess? Chu Xiu has a black line point. I accidentally absorbed your energy. It's true, but that was caused by the system upgrade, and he didn't have the ability to absorb other people's spiritual power. Your posture makes me seem like I've practiced the star absorbing Taifa. Chu Xiu spit out, and Li Qiu is only a LV4 level lightning control after all. Pointer energy, in front of the energy of the LV5 upgrade, it is only a fraction. Okay, stop thinking about it. I don't have the ability to absorb other people's energy. Chu Xiu finished point regardless of whether the women believed it or not. They left the villa. As soon as the door opens, I saw Kara, who was guarding the door. Because she is a robot, she did not enter the house, but stopped the hungry flying ants at the door. Kara, well done. When Chu Xiu came out, a thick layer of flying ant corpses has been accumulated around Kara, but then leave it to me. You can go in. After Chu Xiu finished speaking, his body slowly vacated the air. Hungry flying ants lingering inside the community immediately discovered this organic life point, then came around point hum and the sound of dense wings flapping point. Countless hungry floaters flew over. It came just fine. Chu Xiu hung in the air and slowly closed his eyes. The sky in Ben 4.1, which was covered by ant colonies, became darker and darker in an instant point. If the vision can pass through the swarm point, you can see that there is really a dark cloud floating in the sky. The moisture in the air is increasing rapidly. Point the breeze is rising. Point a disturbing feeling gradually appeared. Point inside the villa. Several women shivered in unison. Point the hairs on his body stood up slightly. It's lightning. There is electricity in the air. Although Li Qiu was drained of thunder energy, but she is still a lightning controller after all, so she can clearly feel the energy changes in the air. Point outside the villa, hum densely packed, hungry flying ants flew towards Chu Xiu. Point the ferocious jaw-like mouth parts opened. Judging from his posture, he seemed to vow to bite off a piece of meat from Chu Xiu. Chapter 170. Lei Gong. Help me. Just at the moment when the densely packed hungry flying ants attacked, point a white light lit up point a dark earth, obscured by clouds and swarms of insects. At this moment suddenly ushered in light. Point it was like a ray of dawn in a dark world, and the center of the light is Chu Xiu hanging in the air. The white light expands rapidly. Point with Chu Xiu as the center, it expands outward in a spherical shape. Point at first glance point it was as if there was an extra sun in the sky. Point but if you look closely, you will find that the so-called white light actually condenses the ultimate lightning energy. Point lightning energy compressed to the extreme. Point the original liquid form appeared again. Point like plasma, slow but unstoppable outward expansion. Point wherever it passes, any hungry flying ants that are touched will instantly vaporize. Not to mention dead bodies, not even ashes will remain. In front of the extreme energy, they were instantly vaporized into the most primitive carbon structure and disappeared in the world. You killed the F rank beast hungry flying ant. EXP +5. You kill point. You kill point. You kill point. The prompts are loud and clear, but this is not the limit of this energy point. When the plasma white sphere diffuses to a certain extent, the originally compressed energy quickly diffuses gradually. It is not enough to maintain this liquid plasma state. Point then, the energy changed from the plasma state back to the norm. Point in an instant. Point the white ball has expanded several times. Like the sun falling. Point it appeared in the sky above Yijiang Garden. Point boom. The moment when white light illuminates the earth. Point a violent roar sounded. Point wow, the glass of the villa building shattered. Point some intact vehicles parked on the road have sounded the alarm. Point zizzy, the normal lightning energy turned into countless thin arcs of lightning in an instant. Point the white ball disappears in its place is a rapidly expanding minefield. In an instant, it engulfed all the surrounding hungry flying ants. You killed the F rank beast hungry flying ant. EXP +5. You kill point. You kill point. You kill point. The beep was too late to broadcast. Point this alone provided tens of thousands of experience for Chu Xiu. Cool. Chu Xiu was bathed in thunder. Point dense arcs jumping between its hairs. This feeling of being one with thunder and lightning made his body instinctively tremble and tremble. But this is not fear, but excited to the extreme. Not enough. Not enough. Chu Xiu looked around. This part of the hungry flying ants that broke into the Lijiang garden was almost completely emptied by the move just now. Luckily, all that was left was a few sporadic flying ants, but this still haven't fully demonstrated the power of LV5 lightning control. If LV5's magnetic field control is a further expansion of the microscopic level, enhanced is the manipulation of the magnetic field that LV5 lightning control. It is outright violence. It is the ultimate destructive power. Can't tell which of the two is better or worse, but at least, in terms of absolute destructive power, lightning control is undoubtedly slightly better. It should be said to be far ahead. Li Qiuyu in her previous life was able to reach such a high level because of the extreme destructive power of the thunder and lightning ability. Me. Now, 5 Li Qiuyu, who was at his peak, is only one level away. Chu Xiu recalled. Li Qiuyu in her previous life was a level 6 awakener. In other words, according to the previous life, it should be a 6th level demigod. Because the 6th level element control system awakeners, without exception, are almost all walking mushroom bombs. Has the power to destroy a city with one blow. However, with my current growth rate, demigods don't seem to be a distant thing. After Chu Xiu finished speaking, he shook his head. Get rid of all the distracting thoughts in your mind. Then, his eyes fell on the dark cloud that was gradually receding. Throughout the history of the apocalypse, I may be the only one who actively pursues the hungry flying ant colony. The corners of Chu Xiu's mouth rose slightly. After speaking, increase the repulsive magnetic field and fly straight towards the center of the dark cloud. Boom. At the same time, at the moment when Chu Xiu changed his position in the sky, the real dark clouds also made a aurora bolt of lightning leaped from the clouds, illuminated the earth briefly. This dark cloud actually followed Chu Xiu and also moved in the direction of the insect swarm. Ah, you attracted to the electricity in me? Chu Xiu noticed something strange in the air, but this isn't actually a mythical thing. It is nothing more than two equally powerful electric energy attracting each other. I wonder if I can borrow the power of heaven and earth. Feeling the power of thunder in the dark cloud, Chu Xiu suddenly had a bold idea. With this idea, Chu Xiu accelerated and rushed into the range of the hungry flying ant colony. Suddenly a living person rushed in. The huge colony of hungry flying ants boiled instantly. It fluttered with densely packed wings. The dark cloud rolled over. Like a chaotic mass of black monsters, they opened their mouths and drowned Chu Xiu in it. Zizzy. At the moment of being surrounded by hungry ants, the lightning energy in Chu Xiu's body spilled out uncontrollably. At various positions on Chu Xiu's body surface 580 go out automatically because these flying ants are too close to each other. Every bolt of lightning that Chu Xiu unleashes will cause a series of blows. One electricity is a big piece, but despite this, there were still countless hungry flying ants bearing lightning bolts, attacking Chu Xiu from up, down, left, right, front, back, and in every conceivable direction. In the face of this terrifying number, the lightning that Chu Xiu unleashed gradually failed to kill him. Sure, enough quantitative change leads to qualitative change. A weak frank beast, once the number reaches a certain scale, is equally terrifying. Chu Xiu sighed with emotion, but he didn't use the newly wrapped plasma attack point. Although the power of the plasma is great, the consumption is equally astonishing. The reason why human beings are the masters of all spirits, it's not because of how powerful human beings are, but because people will use external force. When the hungry flying ants completely surrounded Chu Xiu, Chu Xiu raised his head slowly. The cold eyes seemed to pass through the densely packed flying ants. See the dark cloud higher up. Lei, Gong, help me. Chu Xiu raised a hand. The voice just fell. As soon as the lightning strikes the sky, split from the cloud, the dazzling thunder seems to tear the sky apart. Chapter 173 Thunder. The cracks are opened. Hurry up, seize this gap. Complete the mission. A few minutes ago, in the Lijiang garden, where Chu Xiu was, it was about to be attacked by a colony of hungry flying ants in H City, which was completely occupied by beasts and zombies. A team of heavily armed soldiers in black pointy is escorting a huge instrument, quickly moving in the direction of the H City zoo. The strange thing is, along the way, they did not suffer from too many beasts or zombies, because not so long ago, the hungry flying ant colony passes through the area. These ferocious flying insects, just for these black soldiers, cleared away the zombies and beasts along the way. Quick, hurry up. Commanding the soldiers in black was a one-eyed sturdy man in his 40s. One eye is covered by a black patch. There is a long scar on the face. 5 minutes to the next wave of the crack. Hurry up, we have to get the machine in 5 minutes. The one-eyed man looked at the time. Shouted sharply. The surrounding black-clothed soldiers listened and accelerated. But as the group got closer and closer to the zoo, a strange scene happened. They were clearly not attacked by anything. However, some of the black-clothed soldiers experienced abnormal symptoms such as nosebleeds and dizziness one after another. And as it gets closer and closer to the zoo, this negative symptom is also getting worse. Puff. Not long after, a soldier in black vomited blood and fell down, killed on the spot. The second one, the third one. Seeing this, the one-eyed strong man looked extremely anxious. He looked at the little time left, and then looked at the subordinates who had fallen one after another. Ordinary people stay vigilant. Others move on with me. Charlie, you are in charge of carrying the machine. The one-eyed man shouted. A soldier who looked like a bear man walked over and directly carried the instrument that could only be lifted by a few people on his shoulders. Entered the zoo with the one-eyed strong man. There are no creatures in the zoo, but there are countless strange footprints on the ground. There are people, beasts, but more, there are countless strange footprints that cannot be named. Boss, look ahead. Not long after entering the zoo, a thin Southeast Asian man suddenly pointed to the front and shouted. Everyone looked in the direction he pointed, and with just one glance, everyone's brain felt like a heavy hammer. Standing dumbfounded. It was a purple crack like an abyss across the lake. In the zoo's inner lake, the length is nearly 500 meters. Countless tiny tentacle-like energies released from the cracks. An invisible wave expanded outward and quickly invaded the brains of several people. For a moment, everyone only felt that they saw countless indescribable objects in their eyes. That is an existence that cannot be described by human language. Weird, out of order, horrible. Everyone, including the one-eyed strong man, was stunned. They seemed to have forgotten their mission and just stared blankly at the purple abyss. And the abyss, look back to, the sanity of a group of people went crazy. Just when they were about to fall into complete madness, dazzling light up the earth suddenly. About a second passed. Boom. A deafening explosion of thunder sounded from a distance, like a wake-up call. Wake up the consciousness of several people. Call. What happened? The group of people lay on the ground like drowning people, breathing heavily. In shock. The group turned their heads one after another and looked in the direction from which the thunder came. The shocking same scene appeared in their eyes. That's a lightning bolt that runs through the world. Wait, that direction is the location of the swarm. The one-eyed man seemed to have guessed something. Next second, a more shocking scene appeared in the eyes of everyone. Lightning exploded. The other side. Boom. Before the thunder, the lightning that penetrated the sky has already split the densely packed hungry flying ants. It landed directly on the raised hand of Chu Xiu. In front of the power of heaven and earth, Chu Xiu's figure seemed so small. This lightning, it's not so much lightning, it's more like a pillar of thunder that runs through the sky. The diameter of the thunder column exceeds 5 meters. What is this concept? The moment the lightning fell. Within a radius of tens of meters with Chu Xiu as the center, there is no longer anything. In an instant, Chu Xiu seems to be in the endless sea of thunder and lightning. In addition to the electric light in the eyes, can't see anything anymore. The dark cloud composed of densely packed hungry flying ants was directly torn apart by the lightning. Then a steady stream of energy gathered from the sky to this gap. To be precise, it converged on Chu Xiu, who was suspended in the gap. Seems long, but everything only happens between lightning and flint. In just an instant, the energy coefficient in Chu Xiu's body reached its peak. Dense arcs, jumping between its hairs, Eyes can no longer see pupils. Inside the eye socket, there is only endless lightning, overflowing out. At this time, Chu Xiu was like the gods who rode thunder in mythology. Hanging in the sky, with one hand, he held Wanjin Xianlui point originally. Compared with the swarm, the figure was very small, but at this time, it was infinitely enlarged by the thunder. The dazzling electric light shone his figure. It was reflected on the ground covered by double dark clouds. That's a huge shadow point. The shape of the shadow is a figure, holding a lightning bolt. Now, clear the darkness, Chu Xiu said, and slowly put his hand down. Point in an instant. Point a dazzling white light lit up. Point endless thunder burst out from Chu Xiu's control, like thousands of thunder dragons, attacking the swarm. Point boom, boom. The explosion of lightning is endless. The originally dark sky was instantly illuminated by dazzling lightning. Point countless hungry flying ants were swallowed by the thunder dragon. The insect swarm that covered the sun all day was instantly emptied. Even the dark cloud above the head was drawn and connected by the terrifying energy that spread. Point. If it is blown away in general. Point dissipates quickly. Point everything is really like what Chu Xiu said, clearing the darkness. Point at the moment when the thunderlight exploded, the dark cloud formed by the swarm dissipated together with the real dark cloud. Point darkness dissipated. Point the shaded sun shines back on the earth. Leak irons. It's that the awakened in the H-City Zoo. The soldiers in black were all shocked by the scene in the distance. Point I even forgot about my mission. It happened not enough time until the one-eyed strong man at the head looked at the time and shouted. Point everyone realized it later and realized that now is not the time to watch the excitement. Point you are in the most dangerous place in the world. Doomsday Center. Quick, send the machine in. Just as the group was about to continue their mission, a scene that made them happen to spare. Point drip drip. The 5-minute countdown has ended. Point the tactical watch on the one-eyed strong man's wrist had sounded an alarm. Point at the same time celery. Point on the lake. Point that abyss-like huge crack. Point open slowly. Boom. A giant palm sticks out of the crack. Grab the edge of the crack. Open slowly. Chapter 174 Abundant Harvest. The picture captured by the satellite. You killed the F-rank beast. Hungry flying ant. EXP +5. You killed. Point you killed. Point over Yijiang Garden. Point the dazzling thunder has gradually subsided. Point, but the prompt sound in Chu Xiu's mind did not stop for a moment. It was densely packed and kept broadcasting. Point until the end. Jumped out a summary. Point you killed the F-class beasts. Hungry flying ants. 64,172. Experience gained 320,860. A time. Point the 100,000 experience consumed by upgrading Raiden control not only came back. Point even more than 200,000. System. Expand my current properties. Chu Xiu's voice just fell. Point the properties panel will appear. Name. Chu Xiu system level 3 strength, 327 agility, 138 physical, 531 plus 97 energy, 1505 plus 311 talent. Magnetic field control LV5, 1 million. Raiden control LV5, 1 million. Royal soil LV4, 100,000. Advanced Julie LV3, 10,000. Primary self-healing LV3, full. Primary flashing LV3. Point expand to C. Use slot 9/20 left square bracket. Experience value 2610. 580 fusion points. 4. Is this more than 300,000? Chu Xiu was a little surprised. If I remember correctly, before I upgraded lightning control, I had a total of 120,000 experience. Good, now completed an upgrade. The total experience is not only not less, but more than 200,000. If this were to happen again, there would be 2 more worms like this. Isn't that 1 million in hand? Looking around, some hungry flying ants survived by chance. Chu Xiu had an absurd idea. Point the size of the swarm. Point. If only it were bigger. It's better not just a dark cloud, but really covering the sky, like a plague of locusts. Use millions or even tens of millions to make units of that size. Point certainly. Chu Xiu just thought about it. Point. If there is such a large colony of hungry flying ants, I'm afraid that the time to consider is not the harvesting experience. Point, but how to run. Point. After all, This dark cloud, Chu Xiu also borrowed external power to complete the clearing point. If only using his own strength, Chu Xiu can't solve it. Just certainly not so simple. Deb. Simple. But where did these swarms come from? After solving the swarm, Chu Xiu hovered in the air, lost in thought. If the swarm was brewing nearby, Beizao should have reminded him, right? Chu Xiu realized a key problem. Beizao owns a reconnaissance satellite point on weekdays. She often uses this satellite to observe the surrounding situation. Whether it's a corpse tide or a beast riot point. If something goes wrong, Beizao will explain the situation to Chu Xiu as soon as possible. But this time the swarm. Beizao did not give any warning. Did these bugs appear out of thin air? With doubts, Chu Xiu came to Beizao's laboratory. Because the swarm has just been wiped out, there are also some sporadic hungry flying ants around. Chu Xiu didn't bother to hunt down one by one. After all, killing one only required 5 points of experience points, so there are still a lot of scattered hungry flying ants around. Therefore, Beizao's laboratory is also closed. At the entrance, a heavy alloy isolation door lowered. But as Chu Xiu came over, the door slowly opened upwards. Ah. You alright, Beizao? Chu Xiu entered the laboratory and asked a question first. Just now, when the swarm attacked, everyone was in villa number 8. Only Beizao was still in the laboratory of villa number 9. Fine, Zairo's response came from the laboratory. She has been in the laboratory and indeed not attacked by the hungry flying ants. After all, the hungry flying ants are only the lowest air rank beasts, and there is no way to break through the door of the laboratory. The battle just now was very good. Looks like you're getting stronger again. Watching Chu Xiu walk into the laboratory, Beizao turned around and said, obviously, Chu Xiu's battle just now was watched by her using satellites or other means. Beizao, do you know anything about this swarm? Chu Xiu went straight to the subject. Ah. You here to ask why I didn't warn me? Beizao seemed to have guessed Chu Xiu's doubts and replied, the reason is that I didn't find them. Also, I don't know much about them. What can be determined now is that the appearance time of these insects should not exceed 20 minutes, because I checked the satellite footage 20 minutes ago. Beizao meaning is very clear. These hungry ants just popped up, and they weren't there 20 minutes ago. And the only thing that can cause this, there is only one thing. What do you mean? These hungry flying ants just came out of the crack? Chu Xiu's face was solemn. Beizao nodded. After speaking, he turned sideways and revealed the notebook screen that was blocked behind him on the screen. It is the view of the city from high altitude. The location is the H-City Zoo where the space-time rift is located. But the picture seems to be disturbed by something. The images captured by the satellite kept flickering. It will be clear in a while. It will be blurry. And from time to time, a distorted and strange indescribable object will flash on the screen. Like a bunch of twisted limbs intertwined. The whole picture looks weird. But actually, this is nothing unusual. This kind of interference actually existed at the moment when the crack appeared. Satellite images have been unable to capture the conditions around the crack. Just before you came in, the crack opened again. Beizao said calmly. Next to her, the instrument specially used to detect the energy fluctuations of the cracks was flashing red light all the time. At this point, Chu Xiu found it. As soon as he came in, the instrument did not sound an alarm. That is the energy fluctuations of ordinary police officers? Chu Xiu asked. It is also not uncommon for the cracks in time and space to open. Since the day of Judgment Day, the cracks in time and space have been continuously pouring out beasts and monsters. It is normal for the crack to open 180 times a day. Therefore, Beizao set a threshold for this detection instrument. If the energy fluctuation does not exceed this threshold, the instrument will only flash red, and no alarm will be issued. If the threshold is exceeded, there will be a screeching alarm like the last dense fog event. From the perspective of the energy coefficient, it is indeed the same as the previous fluctuations. But, Beizao said, and paused, then open a segment of the satellite image taken a few minutes ago. Click. to play point in the screen. It was a group of one-eyed strong men who overlooked the picture from a high altitude when they went to the zoo. Chapter 175 The Mortal Task. Where did these people come from? Chu Xiu asked with a frown. The video is very short. Only 10 seconds. The content is also very simple. Just a group of soldiers in black, with some kind of equipment, move quickly in the direction of the H-City Zoo point. After entering the scope of the zoo, the picture is disturbed and it ends. Not sure. Only. This scene was captured. Beizao shook his head point in the beginning. The acquisition lens of the Zimami satellite did not face this area point. If not, Beizao adjusted it manually point. I'm afraid I can't even shoot these 10 seconds of video. Chu Xiu's face was solemn point. I watched the 10-second video several times. In the end, his eyes fell on the machine that several soldiers were carrying together. However, the accuracy of the images captured by satellites is limited point. It can only be vaguely identified that this is a cylindrical instrument, and the size should not be small point. Besides, no usable information can be discerned. They filmed later? 5 Chu Xiu asked. At the end of the video, these people entered the range of the zoo, which is the interference range of the space-time crack point. The picture behind is disturbed point. Beizao stopped recording. No point. Zio shook his head and said plainly, after these people entered the zoo, none of them came out. That looks cold. Chu Xiu gave his own guess. The space-time rift opens every few minutes. Every time, a large number of beasts or monsters will pour out point. In this case, a group of human soldiers. No, even a group of awakened. It would be very difficult for them to leave alive point. It can even be said that it is impossible to leave alive. What's more, judging from the time of the video, these people have been in for almost 15 minutes. 15 minutes. The probability of survival is completely negligible. The question now is, what did these people do after they went in? What's that machine they're carrying now? Chu Xiu, it just feels like there are too many things in this world that he doesn't understand point. In fact, it stands to reason that as a rebirth, Chu Xiu should know a lot of things point. But no way. In his previous life, he was just an ordinary person without superpowers point. A small person point. Forget investigating about the truth about the end times. If you can survive a small life, you have already tried your best. In that case, what Chu Xiu can understand is only the information that everyone knows in his previous life. For example, where a large-scale corpse tide broke out. Where did some powerful monsters appear? How many bases were destroyed? And this information is known to everyone point. It's usually the big event in the apocalypse. But now, with the early arrival of the fog event, Chu Xiu had to wonder if the big events in his memory would come soon. What? If you're going to probe the rift in space-time, I don't recommend you go in person. Zio seemed to see what Chu Xiu was thinking point, so said, you mean let Kara go? Chu Xiu guessed Zio's thoughts. In the base, there is the only one who has powerful strength, but is not afraid of death point. Only Kara, the liquid metal robot. But are you sure Kara won't be disturbed like the satellite footage? Chu Xiu asked back, uncertain. That's why we let Kara go. Would it be better to lose a manufacturable robot than an awakened? Beizao said in a calm tone. As one of the designers and makers of Kara, Beizao didn't seem to have any psychological burden on the matter of letting Kara die. Instead, Chu Xiu hesitated point, but only for a moment point. Soon, Chu Xiu realized that this was the best choice. It can only be this way. You'd better design a device that will always receive Kara's signal. In this way, even if Carla encounters an accident, she will not be able to come back. We can also know the situation inside through the information she sent back. After putting aside the perceptual interference, Chu Xiu not only agreed to Beizio's plan, but even proposed a perfect plan for the plan point. In the end, the worst thing to do is emotional kindness. After returning to God, Chu Xiu decisively chose to sacrifice Kara. It's simple. Zio nodded and started work immediately point. The other side, Carla, who is still conscientiously guarding the door of Villa number 8 point. He didn't know his two creators at all point. Own father and mother. In just a few words, her next life and death were decided point. But even if you know Kara will not have any negative thoughts, nor will she refuse this task point, because it's a machine. Even if she has the ability to learn independently and think for herself, it cannot change this. A machine is a machine. Her mission is to obey. After 2 hours, it's getting late. The last hungry flying ant around the community was also shot down by the machine gun carried by the mechanical spider. Point 4 Flowers Yijiang Garden started the aftermath work. Point the corpses of the hungry flying ants were clamped by mechanical spiders with mechanical limbs, gathered and prepared for incineration. Point at the same time, Beizao also built a signal transmission device. Point in order to reduce the interference that the space-time crack may cause to the signal transmission. Point Beizao added a variety of anti-jamming devices to the device. Point anti-magnetic. Point anti-amp. Point almost all factors that can interfere with signal transmission have been considered. Point at the same time the transmission device is built. Chu Xiu also told Kara about the content of this mission. Okay, chief. As expected. Point without any hesitation, Kara took over the task. She took over the signal transmission device made by Beizao, and the liquid metal on her body squirmed for a while before swallowing the fist-sized device into her stomach. Kara, I'm not sure what will happen when you go in, so I left a back door on the signal transmission device. If you encounter an irresistible existence, it is about to be destroyed. You can transfer your consciousness data through the device backup. When Kara was ready to leave, Beizao suddenly said. Point turn out to be Beizao, who seemed to have no reaction to Kara's life and death. Actually, there is still a way out for Kara. As a robot with self-learning ability, Kara's consciousness is equal to her life. Just back it up. Even if Kara's body is destroyed, Beizao and Chu Xiu can also revive Kara, just like they did when they resurrected the Stealers. Okay, Beizao. Kara nodded. As a robot, she doesn't actually have any feelings. In this respect, she is very similar to her creator Beizao. After saying this, Kara then boarded the Gulfstream 650 parked outside the community with Chu Xiu. Boss, can we go in the pilot seat of the plane? Zaojin, who had been waiting for a long time, asked. Let's go. Chu Xiu finished. The aircraft began to taxi along the runway. After reaching takeoff speed, the nose begins to stretch after takeoff. Chu Xiu turned to look at Kara, who was beside him. We'll drop you at an altitude of a few kilometers. What you have to do is to land as accurately as possible, as close as possible to the space-time crack. Then quickly investigate what's going on around, collect all the useful data, and send it back. Chu Xiu repeated Kara's task again. Point, but not a word. Point how does Kara get off the mountain? End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.